I'm ready when you are. Okay. I am calling to order this regular meeting of the Pacific Grove Unified School District Board of Education. Welcome, everyone. It is June 18th. As we begin this meeting, it's important to pay respect to and acknowledge that we are on the traditional land of the Ohlone, Costanoan, and Esalen people, and additionally pay respect to elders both past and present. And next on our agenda is our roll call, Dr. Adamson.
Yes, indeed. President McNary.
Here.
Clerk Shamas.
Here.
Dr. Hazen.
Here.
Trustee Otmar. Here. And Trustee Wax.
Here.
Thank you. With all 5 trustees present, we have a quorum and can do our business. Thank you, everyone, for being here in the summer. Item D on our agenda is the adoption of the agenda. I'll first look to you, Dr. Adamson. Are there any changes to the agenda?
There are no changes.
Okay, thank you. We will then go out to public comment on the adoption of the agenda. Would anyone like to make a public comment either in the room or online on the adoption of the agenda? Thank you, Director Binder. Okay, board, any discussion on the agenda, or if not, I'll look for a motion.
I'll make a motion to approve the agenda as presented.
Thank you.
Second.
Okay, motion made by Trustee Hazen, second from Trustee Wax. All those in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any noes? Okay, motion carries. Thank you. Item 2 is our closed session agenda. I will now identify the topics for closed session this evening. Item A is negotiations, collective bargaining session, planning and preparation with the CSEA for 2025-2026. Item B is public employee discipline, dismissal, release, leave complaint under Government Code Section 54957, Subdivision B. Item C is conference with legal counsel, existing litigation, John Doe versus PGUSD, Monterey County Superior Court, case number 25 CV003120. Are there any public comments on the closed session topics for this evening? Thank you, Director Binder. Okay, with that, we will adjourn to, oh, okay, go for it. Thank you. Apple, you have the floor.
Oh, can you hear me?
Oh, or whoever's, yeah, it says Apple on the name.
Yeah, it's Brian Swanson.
Oh.
Hi, everybody. How are you all?
Hi, okay.
Good. I'm just quickly because just in the interest of transparency too. I know that these topics in closed session can be a little vague. I'm wondering if you could just address it for anybody else that's tuning in. I don't think anybody is, but why it has to be kind of shrouded a little bit. It's like because it's employee related and you cannot really talk about it. Is that about right?
That is correct, Mr. Swanson. Yes, indeed. Yes. If there's anything to do with, if there were to be a personnel issue, for example, that language covers and protects individuality for that specific reason.
Okay. All right. I just wanted to kind of jump in there and to make sure that was clarified again, because I think for some people that might be tuning in, they're like, well, why don't we know more? Well, there are reasons why we don't know more. And that is exactly the reason why, is to protect all parties involved. And so that's all I got to offer, really, is just to kind of jump in there real quick and make sure that anybody else that might be looking at this now or in the future understands why these things can be a little weird.
Thank you for sharing and for your comment. And nice to hear from you, former trustee Swanson. And now we can adjourn to closed session. We will be back at 6:30 for open. Okay, good evening. We are reconvening in open session. If you're just joining us, welcome. This is our regular meeting for the PGUSD School Board of Education. The next thing I will do on our agenda is report actions taken in closed session. With regard to item A, negotiations, collective bargaining session, planning and preparation with the CSEA for 2025-26, information was received and direction was given. For item B, public employee discipline, dismissal, release, leave complaint under Government Code Section 54957, subdivision B, information was received and direction was given. With regard to item C, conference with legal counsel, existing litigation, John Doe versus PGUSD, case number 25CV003120, information was received by the board. We will now move on to the Pledge of Allegiance, and Trustee Hazen, would you lead us this evening? Thank you. Okay, we will move right into our communications portion of our agenda. Because it is the summer, we do not have a student board rep with us, but we will have a new one joining us at our next meeting in August. Next up is board member comments and written communications. I'll read off the written communications I received. And then any other board members are welcome to chime in and add. I received a California Public Records Act request. I received 16 emails regarding PGMS music program and Barbara Priest. I received an email regarding the DO raise, and I got an invitation to the annual Community Human Services Luncheon, which will be on July 16th. Are there any others?
Are you including the CSEA or letters that we got about negotiations?
Thank you. I did not have that on my. Is there another, Trustee Wax?
Yes, I got one direct email about CSEA negotiations and employee dismissal / release / leave complaints. And then also in person, I was relayed experiences about a family who had about a family's experience in the district office from kindergarten through high school. Unfortunately, a negative communication. And then similarly, an experience of an elementary classroom about their experience. That's it.
Thank you. Will you forward those to Dr. Adamson, the additional messages, so we can distribute them to the board? Thank you. Trustee Atmar?
I received an in-person communication question regarding registration in the district and district boundaries.
I had one in person with that as well that I directed to our assistant superintendent.
Board member comments for this evening. Trustee Wax, would you like to start us off?
Good luck to all the parents shepherding their kids to various camps, and I hope summer's good.
Trustee Otmar? Anything to share? Okay. Trustee Hazen?
Yes, I have some updates and probably one of my longer board member comments, so I appreciate everyone sticking with me for it. Just starting with a heavy heart, I did want to announce tonight that I will be leaving the board sometime this summer and not seeking re-election. So I hope there is a similarly minded, in terms of dedication to the district, person that would like to run in Area 3. But in preparation for this as well, and kind of looking back on 4 years of incredible work, I do want to leave our community and our staff with a final charge regarding the vision we hold dear. So I joined this board because I believe public education can and does change lives. I believe schools should be places where every child feels seen, valued, challenged, and supported. I believe students should never be defined by their struggles, but by their potential. And I believe so strongly that every adult in our district shares responsibility for helping our children succeed. Our district often speaks about its culture of we, and I see we're going to have a little more discussion tonight. It's a very powerful idea. I was happy to sign on that every student matters, every student belongs, every member of our community shares responsibility for helping our children succeed. But culture is not defined by mission statements, posters on walls, words spoken at assemblies or here at the dais. Culture is defined by what students experience every day. A culture of we requires more than good intentions. It requires adults to notice when students are struggling. It requires adults to communicate concerns early. It requires adults to create pathways to success rather than being willing to simply document failure. And it requires adults to address exclusion, avoid favoritism, and call out bullying and unkind behavior when they see any inkling of it. Most importantly, it requires adults and the teachers in our district to believe that every student can grow and succeed. Students do not experience Pacific Grove as an institution. They experience it one classroom at a time, one interaction at a time. A student can hear years of messages about belonging, support, and community, but if they walk into a classroom where they feel invisible, unsupported, or written off, our goals ring hollow. The culture of we stops being a lived experience and it becomes a slogan. That is particularly why teaching carries such enormous responsibility. Teachers possess the power to shape how students see themselves, and a great teacher can change the trajectory of a child's life by instilling confidence, resilience, and belief. I've shared a few times now the story of my 10th grade chemistry teacher, whose confidence in me changed how I viewed my own educational trajectory, and really without which I would not be in my career in science today. But the difficult truth in every district and here in PGUSD is that teachers possess both the power to lift a student up and the power to tear a student down. So the same profession that can inspire a student to greatness can also deeply undermine a student's confidence through sustained indifference, low expectations, poor communication, favoritism, and failure to provide struggling students with a roadmap for success. Academic weaknesses can be repaired. Skills can be retaught. Grades can recover, but confidence is far more fragile. When a student begins to believe they are not capable, that they are not valued, or that success is reserved for someone else, rebuilding their self-belief can take years. The loss of confidence may be the greatest harm a school can inflict because it follows students long after they leave a particular classroom. We often place enormous weights on grades as a culture, but a teacher's job is not simply to grade success or failure. It is to identify these challenges early, to communicate clearly, to partner with students and families, and as I mentioned before, to ensure there is a pathway forwards towards success. When that responsibility is embraced, students thrive. And I want to make it clear, many of our PGUSD teachers embody these values every day. We have a great group of teachers. They identify challenges early, they communicate early, they provide meaningful support even well after the class is over. They help students discover the strengths they never knew that they possessed. They are the living examples of this culture of we. And yet we know as a board, as a district, there are too many students still leave certain classrooms feeling invisible, feeling unsupported, or again, worst case, written off. And this raises an important question for us as a governance team. If we truly believe in this culture, how do we ensure our best examples become our standard? How do we build the systems, support, and accountability necessary so that every classroom reflects this vision? We can do better, and we should do better. And we say it's for the kids. That's why we're here. But we are regularly and too often letting the kids down. Because a community's values are not measured by its best examples, but by the standards it upholds consistently. If we genuinely want to believe and commit to a culture of we, then every student should be able to expect the same commitment to support, communication, respect, and growth in every classroom. Anything less is not a culture of we. It is a culture of some. And that promise of a culture of we, many students in our district never get the chance to experience. My hope is that we, and I'll say soon to be you as a governance team and as a district, continue doing the difficult work required to make those words real. Not for some students, but for every single student in every single classroom, every single day. Thank you.
Thank you for your comments. Clerk Shamas, would you like to make any board comments this evening?
No, I think that was enough.
Okay. Well, on that note, the commitment is here and, I hear you and, it's a slow burn. So, I want you to know that like we are committed to the work and I'm sorry, it's not it's not showing up for everyone right now. I think just us getting started, you, me and Trustee Otmar, like that's why we came to this board is because we're committed to that work. So for me, I am gonna seek a second term on the board. And like you said, I view the trust of our families and students and just community as something to be earned daily. And I think that's what you're speaking to is the lived experience and that we're continuing to do the work so that more and more of our students are having that experience where they feel seen and they feel valued. So I guess that's just to say that for me, I do see our progress and I'm passionate and energized about where we're going and being able to serve and grow in this community. So I will be spending the next month of my summer putting together a campaign. And then please enjoy your future travels. I think we'll all have a few more words to say about you shortly. So superintendent's report is up next. Thank you, Doctor.
Thank you. I'm just going to start by saying thank you for those words and the charge, Dr. Hazen. I have a few things I'm going to say to the end of my report that really kind of, speak to you and maybe address some of the comments you've made there as well. But I'm going to go in and kind of just share some of my highlights first, and we'll say that towards the end. But again, just wanted to thank you it was a very powerful charge. All right. I think it is summer, obviously, and so not as many highlights as I would typically have in my report, but there are some significant events that have occurred in the last few weeks that I really wanted to take some time to highlight. And so if we go to that, the next slide, as always, I'm presenting it through our 3 core values of belonging, prosperity, and safety. And the next slide really speaks about the first item. And we were really excited to hear about something that was announced recently in the Monterey Herald. I'm incredibly proud to celebrate our very own coach, Craig Bell, was officially named as for the Monterey Herald All-County Coach of the Year for the 25-26 school year. This recognition highlights not only Coach Bell's expertise and success on the field, but more importantly, his dedication to mentoring our student athletes into exceptional leaders and high character individuals. I loved reading the article in the Monterey Herald. If you haven't seen it, I encourage you to read it yourself on June 7th, which happened to also highlight the team's last game. The piece that highlighted so much of what has made Coach Bell successful, and I thought it would just be applicable for me to share a few of those things that were mentioned about him, and things that resonated with me that really resonate with our district's mission. Coach Bell was quoted to saying, "The culture these seniors set was amazing. They have left the program better than when they found it. We have a foundation in place because of them, and we'll have a head start going into next year because of them." And in true Coach Bell fashion, he modeled, as he always has, modeling the relentless work ethic that we as a district thrive on. He noted at the end of the article that next year was going to begin that following Monday, as he would be back on the field mowing the lawn. In his words, "I've got to get ready for summer baseball. I'll miss these guys, but I know they'll be back and supporting the program." We weren't on an emotional roller coaster. even though everything pointed that we should be. We stuck to the process, and he ended with what I feel was probably one of the most important comments that he made. It's incredible what can happen when people believe and put their energy in one direction. So just wanted to say congratulations to Coach Bell on a well-deserved honor. He embodies what it means to build a prosperous program and has done that throughout the baseball and throughout the season. All right. Well, the next slide just also highlights, when I sat here last month at our last meeting, we were very excited about sharing just some of the successes of our varsity baseball team. But, I really just wanted to highlight at that point, they were moving forward through the Northern Californian, state champions. And they capped off their historic year with really just a really exciting game on that last June 6th game, I think it was. I've heard just a lot of accounts. I was not able to be there myself, but just a lot of accounts about the electric energy and the vibe that game had. But there was one particular email that I received that I just thought was worth reading out just a small portion of to get a sense of what the energy was. This particular parent, who happens to be a teacher in our district, really wanted to make note of the fact that we came away from that Northern Cal State baseball championship game played on June 6th, feeling as if we had just witnessed the most extraordinary sporting event of our combined lifetimes. It was a spectacular comeback like no one has ever seen, from a 0-13 deficit in the first innings, a never give up attitude despite the struggles of all 9 pitchers, all hands on deck contributions from starters and relievers all down the line, and very nearly clinching a Nor-Cal state championship. A 20-21 score is basically unheard of in baseball, even in extra innings. What they accomplished as a team wasn't just from athletic strength. It was mostly the power of the heart and the remarkable leadership of our seniors, who demonstrated to all of the adults what it looks like to believe in the culture of we. And so I know we've had conversations and, already about that, Dr. Hazen, that makes me think of your comments, but truly, there are times that, yes, I think this was an example of, our coach and our students coming together to put that into practice. And I'm just incredibly, proud that, even looking at that particular game where our students were down 13-0, that they actively chose to fight back as a collective unit. Ultimately, that's, the definition of we. So just so very proud of our students and those athletes. Let's see, I think our next highlight just speaks to, yes, we have, really taken a lot of time in the last few months to recognize Pacific Grove Middle School and Community High School. That at Monterey County Office of Education, their board meeting last week, they took the time to actually vote in resolutions for both of our schools and both of our principals, along with Dr. Hackquist. They happened to actually all be there that day for a training, were able to be there for the board meeting itself, where both principals were just, appropriately recognized and honored. So once again, congratulations to both of those schools, where, just a continuation of the reflection of a safe and nurturing and high achieving environments for our students. So very proud. And then finally, in the spirit of belonging, just an announcement and an invitation. We have officially signed up to participate in the Monterey Pride Parade, June 27th. It's an hour and a half long, 11 a.m. to 12:30 p.m. I do invite everyone, our community, students, families, and staff to join us for that proud moment, as we just, truly celebrate our strong sense of belonging and inclusivity across our district. We'll be proud to be walking alongside, several other neighboring districts as well. So definitely will be a morning of fun. All right, and with that, that really concludes my official report. But I am going to switch over now to, just take some time to recognize you, Dr. Hazen, as is our tradition. When anytime we have a trustee leaving, we always want to take the time to just thank you and acknowledge, the many years of sacrifice that we know it takes. So I've written just some, personal things for you. We're going to take that time, and then I'm going to open up to the board afterwards to, share something yourselves. So Elliot, it's my honor to recognize you this evening for a remarkable, very close to it, but I'm just going to say 4 years of service to our Board of Education. Your leadership, your dedication, passion, and I say that with a lot of emotion, that passion has come through in everything you've done. For the work that we do on behalf of our students have left an indelible mark on the district and our entire Pacific Grove community. These past 4 years presented us with significant challenges, and just to name a few, navigating complex budget reductions, making incredibly difficult decisions regarding layoffs, to successfully passing a $78 million bond measure, just to name 3 that come to mind. You handled every single moment with grace, with courage, and an impressive determination, never shying away of even the hardest decisions, knowing that you were really putting the long-term health and needs of the district and our students at the heart of those decisions, and having to say yes to difficult things. Last year, you stepped up to serve as our board president. It was an honor for me to be able to get to work with you in that capacity. You know, Elliot, just getting to know you even closer, you know, during that time. And it really gave me such a strong sense of who you are as an individual. And that was a privilege. You led us as president for that year with a true spirit of collaboration, integrity, and a genuine joy that really comes through in what you do for serving our students, families, and staff. I think your ability to navigate complex challenges with a sense of optimism, while also keeping a constant protective focus on the well-being of our children, has been a source of inspiration to everyone around this table as we sit here at the dais looking towards you. You spoke earlier about that, the culture of we, and I think you've left us tonight as you're getting ready to step away and move on in, you know, different directions, but with such an important charge that you've been a part of from the beginning. And we carry just a heavy charge with that to continue in your wake. On a personal note, it was an absolute joy to work alongside you as we prepared for and were ultimately selected to present at last year's CSBA annual conference. Even though personal circumstances turned out I wasn't able to present with you, but that was an idea I still remember you coming forward with, so excited about. But that allowed us to speak directly to statewide leaders about how we successfully navigated difficult situations as a governance team, which ultimately resulted in positive outcomes. And that was an ability for you in your role last year to be able to share that with others. I still remember how excited you were sharing how that had gone and how, you know, just the way that message was received by everyone in the audience. But through all of this, I'm grateful to you for the pivotal role that you've played in helping us achieve these positive outcomes. Like each trustee sitting here today at the dais, you've selflessly sacrificed so much of your own personal and professional time to the work we do as a governance team. And I know that doesn't come easily, but you have been determined and dedicated to that, serving as a powerful resource and a true friend to everyone sitting here at the dais. I think that's what's wonderful about, you know, that piece of being a governance team. There are strong connections that develop. Your love for science and environmental protection is evident in everything you do, and that same compassion, analytical mind, and level of care has been fully present in how you approached the decisions impacting our students directly, consistently promoting harmony, well-being, and excellence in every vote that you have called. I deeply appreciate the genuine enjoyment and enthusiasm you brought to our time spent together as a board. Your positivity is infectious, and we've all really benefited from that. And you've definitely earned, I feel, a deep, lasting respect amongst your fellow trustees. So tonight, on behalf of the Board of Education and the entire Pacific Grove community, I extend our deepest thanks for your 4 years of selfless, impactful service. Your passion, commitment, and love for this district will continue to resonate for years. You've definitely left a resounding impact, and your legacy will continue. And it is my pleasure to present you with a plaque that really signifies that time as a lasting memory. Hopefully you'll take this with you to Copenhagen to, you know, or maybe it stays here for your return, but just wanted to say thank you to you. Thank you, Dr. Hazen. Oh, we do need a picture.
photo?
Yes, we
Yeah.
do.
Yes.
Thank you, Dr. Adamson, for all of those kind words about our fellow trustee president, Dr. Hazen. I was going to ask ChatGPT, but I'm really not that talented, so I just wrote a couple things down. That was my idea, but then I'm like, ChatGPT is going to tell me some crazy stuff, so I'll just be myself and keep it short and sweet. We came together on this journey some 3.5 years ago, not knowing what we were getting into, how much time it would take, how much we would have to tell our spouses it was going to be another late night on Thursday, and how many times our kids would say, "Are you free?" "No, I'm still reading board materials." I have admired your positivity, your passion, your dedication, your creativity to find solutions, and the attention to detail with which you approach every decision you make. I think one thing that really stands out and sticks with me is how you embraced your role as president last year and how your leadership allowed us to stay focused on students and evolve and grow as a governance team. And I think that that year and that leadership has really set us up for the future moving forward to be able to work together well as a team and keep our focus where it needs to be. So thank you. I will miss you. Please stay in touch. If you're in Denmark, I can bounce ideas off of you because you're no longer on the board, and then we but yeah, you'll be missed. And thank you so much. Anyone else?
All right, I will go next. Yeah, Elliot, it's been so nice to be with you. Not quite 2 years, but also watching you out there. And I really appreciate your not just your dedication, but your mind. You really do pay attention, even though you're multitasking constantly. Although I do appreciate that too, because if I text him, he will text right away. So I know he's multitasking, but he still gives me that. So I really appreciate that. And I appreciate how you have your own definite ideas, and yet you do not impose on anyone. You are very open to hearing other people's concerns, ideas, and if you feel like maybe you overstepped in some way, you check it out. And that's a wonderful collaborative type of team player, which I really appreciate. And I also appreciate your verbal skills. And I just wrote down something from your I don't want to say your composition, your essay. And I thought this is a good phrase to use, because you said students experience school one classroom at a time. And I thought, wow, that's such a good phrase to build around, to get that word out like you want us to do, and we want to do too. But so I really appreciate all of that comes in the package of you. Thank you. Oh.
Let's see. Everyone has said things that I wholeheartedly agree with. And this was the first board that I served on, but now I'm on some other board. And I have to say, yeah. And I have to say this one is much better. And even in terms of the boring stuff like governance, it really is evident. And in no small part, that's because of you. I mean, it's also the composition of the whole board. I really respect everyone, but with 20% of us representing the board, it's a large portion on you. So I really appreciate that. You are uh you are extremely quick in terms of solutions, and um it's not like a street smarts, but it is like a negotiate, or like a figuring out things that could actually get done and are good, uh which is rare. And again, I know it's summer and no one's watching, but if any community members are watching or listening, I hope you take heart in that Elliot or Dr. Hazen, uh this might be a giveaway because of the doctor thing, but very smart. Um and really that's true for everyone. This board really does have the best of intentions, as painful as the decisions that we sometimes make are. Um, and because of your influence and your charge and your dedication, I definitely think that you have made a better board, and your impact will last into the future. So I hope that gives you some heart, or some solace or something. And then because I am selfish, you are the person who badgered me into running, and now you're leaving. So that's a real sleight of hand move. Um, um, but I appreciate your doggedness in that, and then everything else with the board. You are a really great teammate and a really good collaborator, like Trustee Shamal said, and we'll miss you. And then I'm sorry, again, I know no one is watching, but I think it just has to quickly be mentioned that this is an effect of larger things in our political system. And it's weird. It's like strange to see how impactful things from far away can tangibly affect our small community, either from community members leaving or funding. And it's just everything at the federal level kind of feels disconnected to me, but it is a very stark reminder that it has a very real impact on our community and people's lives. And I think that is regrettable in this instance, because you're a good one. So thanks for all your service.
I promise this won't be as long, but I do want to say thank you. And my sincere thanks to the board and the district for the partnership throughout the journey. I am, even with what I said, obviously I'm very incredibly proud of what we've accomplished together, and really grateful for the dedication, collaboration, and commitment that has made this progress possible. You guys are awesome people to work with, and I mean that wholeheartedly. I'm excited again for the foundation, and just confident that the impact of this work will continue. And even if I hadn't said anything, I believe the commitment from those of you on the board will also continue. So thank you for your comments, but your trust, your leadership, your support. It has been a sacrifice, but also an honor to be part of this effort. So thank you.
Thank you. We will make a special occasion public comment, given we are recognizing one of our outgoing board members, Apple, AKA Brian Swanson. You have the floor in 3 minutes to speak.
I'll keep it. It won't even be 3 minutes. Can everybody hear me now too?
Yes.
All right. Yes. Yeah. It's Apple or former trustee Swanson. First of all, I want to just applaud all the board members and their support for Dr. Hazen. As I look on this screen right now, I see half a dozen people that are just so, is it half a dozen? Seven. Uh, so dedicated to this district, and it's wonderful to see everybody there and supporting Dr. Hazen. But let's get to the point. Um, Dr. Hazen, Elliot, you've been a friend and a colleague and so supportive of me over my years. And um, I just want to thank you again for all your service to the board, to the community. We know what education means and how great public education makes for a great community, and you have been a huge part of that. It saddens me that you're going to be leaving us. I would be there in person, but I don't like to cry in public. So, again, I just want to thank you so much for everything that you have brought to the board. I wrote down a couple of things, but at the top of the list was I learned from you. I learned from you. I became a better educated person, a smarter person because of you. So thank you for that. And that's all. I'm sorry. Um, you know how I feel. Thank you, everybody, but thank you, Dr. Hazen, too. And I'll leave it at that.
Thank you for your comments, former trustee Swanson. Okay. Trustee Otmar? Yeah, no? No. All right. We feel you. Next item on our agenda is individuals desiring to address the board for public comment. Public comment can be made on any item that is within the board's jurisdiction, and we will have public comment again for each agenda item. You can have no more than 3 minutes per speaker. And we will begin with community members who wish to address the board on non-agenda items. Is there anyone either in the room who can come forward to the podium or online? You can raise your digital hand so the board can hear from you. All right. We will move on then, seeing none, to item B, PGUSD staff comments on non-agenda items. Are there any staff members who would like to make a comment on items not on the agenda this evening? Okay. Seeing none, we will move on to consent. Items listed on the consent agenda are considered routine or may have been discussed at a previous meeting. There is no discussion of the items prior to board vote unless a member of the board requests a specific item be discussed or removed from consent. This evening, we have consent items A through M. And I don't believe, Dr. Adamson, there have been any changes proposed. Okay, just double checking. So first we will, as we always do, go out to public comment to see if anyone would like to make a public comment on the consent agenda this evening. Okay, thank you, Director Binder. And then I will bring it back to the board for any discussion on consent.
I wanted to pull item I, the MOU with the Monterey Bay Charter School.
Okay. In terms of where to place that on the agenda, can we make it AA in front of first item on the action? Okay. MOU. Okay. Thank you, Trustee Shamos. Okay, so we have a consent agenda consisting of items A through M minus I now. If there's no further discussion, I'll look for a motion from the board.
I'll move that we approve the consent item with the exclusion of item I.
I'll second.
Thank you. Motion made by Clerk Shamos and a second from Trustee Hazen. All those in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any noes? Okay, motion carries. Thank you all. We will now move on to former consent item I, now action AA, the Monterey Bay Charter School lease agreement. And for those of us following along online, that's on page 42 in our packets. Assistant, or actually, we'll go to you first.
I had in the description for this item, Josh, you have here that about the COLA being 2.5%. Was it that, up to the maximum of 5%. So I was just wondering, why you settled on the percent you did, the 2.5%, rather than a little more.
Yeah, that's a great question. We started the kind of discussion months ago with the charter school, and at the time, the governor's proposed COLA was around 2.64%. It did land at 2.87%. And the way that the master agreement is written, and you are 100% correct, which is it follows the COLA not to exceed 5%, but no less than 2.5%. So when I did prepare the board item and bring it to the board, we left it at 2.5 because it was close to in or around the governor's original budget proposal. But it is now been approved at the 45-day revision to be 2.87%, and that is currently not reflected in the lease agreement. If the board so desires, we could certainly revise and amend and bring that back for discussion purposes to their board. They haven't approved the contract either yet until our board does. But you are correct. Absolutely. The master lease agreement says 2.5%, no less than, up to 5% to follow the state COLA.
Well, it's not that much of a difference between the 2.5 and 2.87. I was just wondering, because we were talking about looking at that as a incremental addition to our budget, and how did we want to approach that? This basically keeps it on the same schedule. So in the future, we may want to have a discussion about that, but I don't want to change anything.
Thank you for bringing our attention to it. Would you like to
Yeah, I'll
make a motion, and perhaps we have a future agenda item in there as well to discuss the future, I don't know, revenue possibilities for,
Well,
or what are you looking at?
I just think it when we go to the budget, the beginnings of building the next budget, that we should include this as, is it reasonable, not reasonable? We should just at least have the discussion about it. And so it doesn't have to be a standalone, but I just want it to be included in the budget discussions.
That makes sense. Okay, can we make a note?
Okay, so I'll make a motion that we approve the
Can I ask a
26,
question?
27. Oh, I'm sorry.
Sorry, can I ask a question about this?
Yeah.
too?
Can you please turn your mic on?
It is.
Oh, I'm sorry, I couldn't
Fine.
hear you.
I'm just timid.
Laid back.
Yeah, summer style. Do we have any data about like the price per square foot from other charter schools, like what they're being charged or anything like that?
We do not have data to answer your question. But I will say charter schools that operate in a district boundary area in which they're chartered oftentimes don't pay a facility use agreement, because this is a charter school that's chartered outside of our boundary area. We have the ability to charge them a lease agreement, but I can absolutely do a survey, because we have quite a few charters in our county, and find out if they are outside of a boundary area in which they're chartered, what the base lease is and what the escalator might be, certainly, and bring that back to the board.
Yeah, that would just be helpful for my own education. So I interrupted your motion.
No, it would be helpful for the future discussion we have about the budget. Okay, I think a motion was about to be made.
Yes.
Okay.
Okay, I move that we approve the 2026-27 Monterey Bay Charter School Lease Agreement,
Okay.
Amendment number 21.
I'll second.
Okay, motion is made by Clerk Shamas and a second from Trustee Otmar. All those in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any noes? Okay, motion carries. Thank you. Okay, next we will go to the action discussion. Item A, the PGUSD Educational Technology Plan for 2026 through 2029. Oh, he's wearing multiple hats this evening. Yeah, Director Binder. Good evening.
Good evening. Thank you. Matthew Binder, Director of Ed Tech for PGUSD. We're back. This will be, I believe,
It's really,
the
yeah, it doesn't
third
sound like the
time.
microphone is. Well, when you tap, we could hear it, but.
Let's try that. Okay. Happy to entertain any questions you might have about the plan itself, but I believe all the information that we had intended to present about the plan revision 2.0 has been discussed, presented at our last board meeting, the previous board meeting. But if you do have any questions, definitely happy to answer those at this time.
Okay, thank you. Oh,
Oh, yeah.
I got louder as well. Well played. We will go out to public comment before board discussion. Is there anyone online? You can raise your digital hand, or in the room, you may approach the podium if you'd like to make a comment on the proposed educational technology plan. Okay, no public comments. I'll bring it back to the board for any discussion.
I have some questions.
Go for it.
How are we going to notify parents about this new plan?
Well, we've got a couple of strategies for informing the community. I believe we plan to draft a press release about the plans once it gains approval, and we could definitely put together something that we could then submit for broader distribution. That'll be kind of one of the strategies I think I'm going to talk with Dr. Adamson about, whether that's something that we can do to really shine a light on this on a broader level. But I think in general, as we move forward with the launching of the plan in the fall, late summer, what we will do is we will work with our site administrators to be able to showcase that in one of their initial newsletters for the school year, start of the school year newsletter, so that they can highlight some of the plan in that distribution as well. Of course, we're going to publish it on our website and generate a one-page infographic that could really highlight some of the more salient features of the plan and make that available on our district and school site websites, I believe, too. I'm also planning to work with Dr. Adamson to bring it into some space in her superintendent's update initially at the start of the school year. And of course, we're going to be making our way around to the school sites themselves at the start of the school year, as we mentioned, to highlight some of the plan as well. I also think with the expansion of the tech committee, when we draw some parents in, non-district employee parents, that could serve as a catalyst for also informing the community, at least in the early months of next school year.
Yeah, I think it will be very strategic to publicize this as much as possible. Going out for a parcel tax, you know, you want to let your community know what you're doing, and and that you're on top of things, and this definitely is something we should be very proud of, that we're, um, attacking it early and in response to a lot of concerns that parents brought up. So I just like the idea of really, getting it into some kind of public forum so that it becomes within Pacific Grove's knowledge base. Let's put it that way. And then are you going to be training teachers and aides on this, or how does it become integrated?
Yeah, great question. A couple of different approaches to that. The plan itself does articulate quite a bit about the training and the kind of the approach we're going to be taking, working directly with Dr. Hadquist and instructional services. And then that'll, of course, then push out to the school sites in terms of collaboration, the PLC process, the cycle of inquiry. So that's going to be part of the ongoing training. But I think initially, one of the first things that we'll do is try to work with Chief Rogaman and look at our mandated training material, which is required of all staff at the start of the school year. And in that training, there is space for documents to be reviewed and read and acknowledged. And I think we could possibly update some of the technology related documents and kind of bring that up to speed with regards to what the plan now contains. So that's another way that we will initially kind of get staff to start really focusing on some of the plan itself. And then we've got a March 15th dedicated professional development day that I know Dr. Hadquist is going to speak about a little bit later this evening. And I believe we could tag on to that. Director Algazi and myself could actually coordinate some form of initial training, at least along the lines of some of the AI that's mentioned in the plan and some of the considerations for use and some of the practical and more prudent ways of using AI and just some of the more details about the considerations for use, kind of as a baseline form of training there. But yeah, the training is ongoing. Yeah. It's never going to be one and done,
right?
Like any of it. And it has to be relevant. It has to be on point. It has to be in person and interactive. And so that's kind of the strategy that we're going to take. And I know that aligns directly with Dr. Hadquist's approach to PD.
Okay. And also along those lines, just, I want to make sure that the board gets updated when appropriate. And so when we're building our meeting schedules, that, we put in, even if we don't have to have an update or whatever, but that we're not adding it on later or something, that it's already part of a quarterly report. Even if it's short, that's fine, just that it's in front of us.
Progress report on the implementation of the plan.
Yeah.
I like the idea of a quarterly update.
Yeah.
I think that could definitely work, and we could schedule that out. I can work with the superintendent's office to see about where that could be strategically placed across the school year. Absolutely.
Okay. Thank you.
Trustee Otmar?
I had a question about how this will be, how the implementation in real time inside the classroom is going to be monitored. How will we know that each classroom and each teacher within that classroom is adhering to this technology plan specifically?
Yeah.
I look at, student use for AI. It's if permitted by the teacher, is restricted to the high school level, but if just as an example. So I'm looking at that and I'm wondering sort of how that is gauged and balanced.
Absolutely.
And tracked.
Yeah, there's some serious guardrails that we're putting in place with our monitoring programs and our software that we monitor the network with. But fundamentally, it comes down to the conversation between site administration and the staff as a first step in this regard. Because once staff is aware that the plan exists and they understand the details of the plan and how it impacts their planning and lesson design, then the conversation there is between direct supervisor and teacher to ensure that there's consistency and coherence around how the instruction takes place in light of the new plan. So, perfect example, we have the screen time framework, right? There is inherent flexibility built into that framework, but if there is an indicator that daily student access to Chromebooks, for example, is exceeding what site administrator may expect in light of the plan, that's essentially the initiation of a conversation and the process of evaluation. I think that's where it comes down to. I mean, teachers are evaluated against the California standards of the teaching profession. And in that body, there are direct references of appropriate use of technology. So this plan in itself dovetails into the CSTPs quite nicely. And I think that could be the basis for how the plan is, monitored at the school site and classroom level.
And as far as just guardrails go, I mean, I know the administrators are busy as it is. And so for them to have an additional sort of set of eyes on technology use and time with Chromebooks spent and all of that, I'm wondering, like at the district office, is there a red flag that would pop up as far as if something is being exceeded and not addressed at the site level? We can count on the district office or administration to be stepping in.
Absolutely. In fact, we've taken steps this past year on behalf with informing the administration that we are going to block certain sites or prevent certain areas of access on the network based on patterns that we're collecting in our analytics reports on activities, online activities. Now, this seemingly very benign. I mean, because we're talking mostly academic or educational gaming sites. And we took steps because we saw the patterns, we saw the trends on the reports that we have at our disposal. And so the administration didn't have to do anything at the school sites. After a conversation, all we did was inform them and essentially get their blessings. Yes, I agree with that. Okay, this is what we're going to do. And here's how we're going to inform the teachers that those sites are no longer going to be available for student access during the school day. So that's kind of the practical implementation of monitoring classroom activity. And it doesn't involve having to put another responsibility onto the schools.
Yeah, because it's a lot. I would imagine it would.
Yeah,
it would be a lot. Okay, thank you for that.
Yeah, sure. Good question.
Trustee Wax.
Thanks for coming back to us again. In the plan, and you've mentioned the PLCs, is there an AI specific PLC that's planned, or is it just built into a different group?
So that's a great question. And inevitably, I believe that will be a central topic in one of the inquiry cycles in the PLC process. So there's going to be multiple cycles. It could focus on any aspect of instruction, instructional strategy implementation, technology integration. And I believe AI will definitely be a key topic in one of those cycles of inquiry. Dr. Hack.
I can speak to that question a little bit. That's a great question. We actually, during our meeting last week at Monterey County Office of Education, I had an opportunity to sit down for several hours with our site leaders, and we're actually attending a PLC related professional development as a team. And then in the afternoon, we broke out and we kind of dug a little bit deeper into how we want to move forward and continue the momentum with the PLCs. One thing that came up, and this is something that I've experienced before in leading PLC work, is I shared with the board last meeting kind of the 6 elements of the Dufour's framework for professional learning communities. And that's really a framework for using collaborative learning to implement interventions and use data to assess the effectiveness or the efficacy of those interventions. But when you talk about PLCs, there's actually a very specific like type of data that we like to use, and that's common formative assessments in the classrooms, CFAs in the classroom. And so when teachers engage in PLC work, what they're really doing is taking in their, generally they're called course-alike teams, looking at their common formative assessments and looking specifically at student outcomes, right? So when you talk about the tech plan and implementing or trying out things related to elements of technology or that are kind of driven from a management level, it's a little bit different than what happens in your typical teacher-led PLC. And so what we talked about is developing a language that doesn't confuse or muddy the waters when it comes to the PLC work that needs to be done at the classroom level with common formative assessments, and kind of the other, I would say, more organizational level type of collaboration work that we're doing. And we have done this type of work before in Pacific Grove Unified. I actually developed out of some of the work that I did before a organizational change model. It's called Action Pedagogy. It's at the high school. It's written into the WASC assessment. And it takes PLC principles like the ones that I outlined for the board, and it addresses more organizational level needs, so that you don't mix the two. And it's very important that as we learn and as we move forward together, we can differentiate between, are we talking about PLCs in the classroom with common formative assessments, where we're saying, what do we want students to know? How do we know that they're learning? How do we know when they get it or when they don't get it? And what do we do, if they're not learning? And what do we do if they already know? Right? Those are the standard questions of the traditional classroom level PLC. What we're talking about is more organizational level professional learning. And that's something that our management team is looking at. How do we take teacher teams and collaboration to use that collaborative structure, if you want to call it action pedagogy, that organizational change type of PLC, to push these types of initiatives forward. So this would be more like a task force, if you will. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
So just to kind of bridge the two kind of sides of the same coin, professional development. Let's imagine, and you're talking about AI use and teachers' use of AI. Let's imagine that we want to use a common formative assessment that was AI assisted in terms of generating the test items, differentiating the versions that were going to be used, because this is something AI could do very quickly, right? You say, I need 3 versions of the same test to essentially discourage cheating or something along those lines, right? AI does that kind of thing very well. So in a PLC format or system, we may have a teacher that did use AI to generate the assessment and created 3 versions and shared those with their department team. And then the students took the assessment, and there was a reflection on how the students did relative to a non-AI generated assessment, maybe something directly out of the textbook or something like that. Based on validity, based on reliability of the assessment itself, the data is very telling. And that could be the source of the student outcomes that the teachers use to collaborate around what is actually working in the classroom relative to AI. That's just one example that I was just thinking about when Dr. Hagquist was up here discussing the two sides of this professional development coin. So that's an example of how something like this could take shape in a collaborative setting, in terms of professional development. I don't know if that helps or
Yeah.
confuses, but that's
No.
an example of kind of a pinpointed topic that's AI related, that the plan itself now has a space and place in terms of facilitating.
And then this is kind of vague, but the PLC is limited to a certain subsect of teachers, right? It's not everyone or not every teacher, right? It's like kind of a test group or
It
something.
typically involves grade level teams, like grade level teams, or department level course alike teams, just so that they can share the same assessments, essentially common assessments. And that's one way to do that is to work in those departments. Something else.
Matthew's right on point with that, but typically you have course alike teams. One of the things that is a challenge in small districts that we have what are called singletons in the master schedule. We have teachers that teach a course nobody else teaches. So when it comes to having a course alike team, there's no other course that they're going to develop common formative assessments that they can reflect upon and work collaboratively around. And so there are different ways to utilize that PLC structure. For example, you have in the career technical education department, they'll be collaborating. And one of the things that came out of their collaboration was our VAPA week, right? Like that was collaboration between career technical education teachers that don't really teach the same content. You have a music teacher that's collaborating with a culinary teacher. They're not going to be developing common formative assessments, but they can reflect on the same CTE standards, right? How are we addressing these standards? So you have to start with what are the standards that we're trying to address collectively, right? And how are we getting at those standards within our discipline? So you can have grade level collaborations. So we see that at all the different sites, as well as department collaborations, as well as in the cases where we have them course alike teams.
Okay, yeah, thank you. Won't get to that one right now. Well, so with AI and kind of the promise or the hope of kind of tailoring things to the individual, does that make the CFA aspect harder? I mean, because and I truly don't understand this, but with developing the CFAs, does that mean like the project is literally the same across those classes that implement it? And if so, that's kind of like different than how we're thinking AI projects might be, or, from the teacher's end, isn't it?
Bless you. It's a good question. I mean, ultimately it starts with the grade levels or subject specific standards.
Okay.
And those can be met through a variety of means. And the CFA or any common assessment at that point is just, bless you, is essentially the last measure of whether or not students really learn the standard. But that doesn't mean that their completion of a project that required them to do quite a bit of work to address and meet the standard isn't equally as valid, or maybe in some cases more valid. But as far as just getting, quantitative baseline data for a specific standard, generally the practice in years past at the classroom, department, grade level using PLCs and the cycle of inquiry has been around using common formative assessments. It is a limited instrument. If you think about it, it's a paper-based or an online test. It's multiple choice, completion, standard type of assessment, as opposed to a project or some kind of other hands-on outcome. So that's been the elusive aspect of PLCs for as long as I can remember, is how do you land on a common formative assessment that was reliable, that was valid, and that could be actionable based on student results. So yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. Complicated piece, but it's that's why we continue moving forward, trying to improve every step of the way.
In the tech plan, I lost the page, but it basically talks about acceptable, or this is again for AI, approved models and everything. Do we know the model, or like, is there a list of the models that can be used by teachers?
So it's a growing list, but right now we are using Gemini exclusively within our environment for staff access only.
Mhm.
But as we know, these things are starting to multiply and become, there's more products coming online all the time with regards to AI. And not only are we talking about the language models like Gemini or Chat or Claude or any of those, but also just what AI now is being integrated into, for example, curriculum products, online publishing products. They're now starting to include AI components, and we will be looking at those and evaluating and assessing whether or not those are safe for use before we even sign contract for purchase. Absolutely. So it's an ongoing, and as you know, it's fast evolving.
Based on kind of the trepidation, I guess, from some of the community and our own, and how fast everything is moving, is there any sort of like list that we could put on the website or something of tools, and then tools, AI models, whatever, and then kind of like just show how they fared, or like if this ed tech reading program failed, like, I know that's possibly a lot more logging and that sort of thing, but I think it would be helpful, I think, to see, what was tried, what failed, what succeeded in a very minimal manner, I guess.
Yeah. It's a great idea, and I am completely in favor of that. As a matter of fact, we've started compiling a list of programs that we are no longer allowing access within the environment. And that's just as informative as those that are allowed.
For sure.
So I think that's a great idea, and somehow color code those. I think that has a lot of potential. Thank you.
And then I really can't read this handwriting, but the last thing was, again, if anyone is listening, there was a daily episode about teachers and students not being as concerned about AI. I mean, they were basically looking at it optimistically, and so if anyone is interested, it was a pretty good listen. And everything. I guess I want to say this, like, I think from a portion of our community, we heard that it was like AI bad. And I think it's changing so quickly and being implemented in so many ways that I think to kind of shut our district, and we're not, but to shut our district off from that possible opportunity or that technology would kind of be shooting ourselves in the foot. So I'm glad that there are like safeguards or rails to kind of keep this focused, and not go like too crazy or not too much in one direction or the other.
I completely agree with that. That was one of the challenges of developing this plan, was being able to walk a path that wasn't all or none, because we realize there is quite a bit of potential in it, but at the same time, there are significant concerns. And we see our role now is essentially running interference for the district to prevent these tools from infiltrating to the point where it's now too late to do anything about it.
Yeah. And I think to either, I mean, just to be more transparent and show some of the possibilities when a teacher does come up with a good AI project. I think it would be helpful to showcase that in some sort of way.
Yeah.
I mean, like any sort of success that the district might have if AI was particular or instrumental in its creation. I think it would be helpful to just let parents know this is something that maybe wouldn't be possible before, but now is, and that sort of thing.
That's good.
And thanks.
Sure, thank you.
Opportunity for education for folks. Any other board members wish to make a comment? Okay. I will echo my gratitude for the process that you guys have undergone to get to this point, and I appreciate the receptiveness to the community feedback. And also that we're going to be getting this into like a one-pager that's digestible, because I think as we field questions from people in the community, that's going to be a really great tool to be able to just tell people in a digestible format, like what they can expect, like new people coming into TK, you know, what, or trifold.
Trifold.
Just something that's really easy and digestible and that people can access because it doesn't require a lot of time and like sorting through a website. But I think, like you said, we're going to make adjustments as we go. Like it's living and it's for now until we learn more about AI, and then we'll pivot, you know, whatever the best direction seems at that time. So thank you all for all the really great questions up on the board and discussion points and perspectives as well. We did go out to public comment. Okay, that's right. If discussion is wrapped, I will look for a motion from the board to approve the PGUSD Educational Technology Plan for 2026 through 2029.
I will make that motion. I'd repeat it, but it's too long.
Thank you.
I'll second.
Okay, motion made by trustee Otmar and a second from trustee Wax. All those in favor, please signify by saying aye. Aye. Any noes? Okay, motion carries. Thank you very much, Director Binder, Dr. Hagquist, Director Algaze, your staff. Item B, next on our agenda is contract for services with EQ Schools. This is on page 129 in the packet, and it is your item, Dr. Hagquist.
Wait for a moment just for the slides to come.
Yeah. Would it help if we take a brief 5-minute recess, because we're right around that time and we can take our recess and come back? Thank you so much. We'll return about 8 o'clock.
Yeah, no worries.
Thank you. We are returning from our short break. We are on item B of our action agenda, the contract for services with EQ Schools, and this is Dr. Hagquist's item. Welcome.
Good evening, trustees. Larry Hagquist, Executive Director of Educational Services, here to outline the proposed partnership with EQ Schools, as well as to request that the board approve the contract of services with EQ Schools. This approval would typically be a consent item, but I would like to take the opportunity to highlight the importance of this work and put it in context of some of the other work that we've been doing in the district. This slide right here presents information taken from the seminal leadership text, The Fifth Discipline, The Art and Practice of the Learning Organization by Peter Senge. In it, Senge emphasizes the importance of collaborative learning and the necessity of collaborative learning in any successful organization. This contract with EQ Schools is intended to support this important cause of learning together throughout the district, from the board level to the staff, to the families, and eventually to our most important constituents, the students. You'll see that Senge's fifth discipline, there are 5 disciplines: personal mastery, mental models, shared vision, team learning, and systems thinking. Senge says that team learning is vital because teams, not individuals, are the fundamental learning unit in modern organization. And I just wanted to highlight that the work that the contract for services that we're bringing forward is all about the learning that we will be doing together throughout the district. We will hopefully be doing together throughout the district in the coming year. This slide right here highlights the alignment of initiatives and the professional development work that we've done in this district from 2021 up to the current date. And you will see how on the left-hand column, the initiatives align with the brochure, the initiatives that are outlined in the brochure that I left on your desk, and the initiatives that are showcased right here on this visual, building a culture of we. You'll see that you've got our core values: belonging, safety, and prosperity, which we support through our professional development with cultural proficiency, restorative justice, what we just talked about, PLCs, professional learning communities. And I think what we just experienced in a prior conversation is we are getting better. We're starting to understand what some of these initiatives are all about, and kind of getting a deeper understanding of these. And that's what it's all about. As we learn more deeply, that learning filters throughout the organization. Ultimately, an integrated approach to all of these initiatives is what we're aiming at. At the top of this slide, it says faster is slower. This is another little phrase taken from Senge's 5th discipline. You may have heard people say slow down to speed up. It's essentially the same thing. We do not want to rush through the learning process in a shallow way. It can actually be detrimental doing so. This is why we've focused so much on this alignment. We want the learning that we're doing we want to give it an opportunity to filter through the system and have a real impact. This is a little, I didn't mention on this last one, at the bottom here is the 26-27 proposal, the integrated approach through EQ Schools. If you read through the proposal, you'll see how our Roni Habib, who is the founder of EQ Schools, has gone through some of these initiatives, done a little bit of learning about our organization, and has built a planned PD around these things so that he is really using that integrated approach, trying to tie together this work for all of the different levels of our organization. A little bit of a background about Roni. He was actually here in the meeting, but he had a family event that he was here for, from 7 p.m. For about 20 minutes, and he had to leave. So I'm just going to read a little bit of background. I was going to give him an opportunity to introduce himself. Roni Habib is an expert in helping leaders, educators, and parents become happier, more resilient, more connected to their purpose, and more playful. The founder of EQ Schools, he leads workshops and speaks in organizations nationally and abroad. Early in his career, Roni struggled with the high stresses and demands of teaching, even losing touch with why he wanted to be a teacher in the first place. It was so painful that he finally discovered the power of integrating mindfulness, emotional intelligence, and positive psychology in his own life as well as in his classroom, and felt called to share this new approach with the world. In the last 7 years with EQ Schools, Roni has taught and inspired thousands of teachers, principals, superintendents, administrators, and parents. Prior to earning his Master's of Education and Teaching credential at Harvard University, he lived in Israel and Belgium. Most importantly, though, Roni has a huge heart and loves helping people. And then in the proposed contract that's in the board packet, I've just kind of presented a slide here that outlines the scope of the work that is proposed. And you'll see that he's planning to address all levels of the organization, including a board and cabinet experience of 2.5 hours. The current proposal is for a date, but that could also be flexible. A leadership retreat that would take place on the 20th of July. 2 meetings with our cultural proficiency team. A district-wide staff experience on the March 15th date that Director Binder mentioned. Also, a mindful parenting experience for parents on the evening of that same March 15th date. And as well as 2 to 3 strategic Zoom sessions as needed. It takes time to plan for all of these events. And we've already gotten together with Roni several times. And so he's been quite gracious with his time. That's a little bit of the background there. And once again, we would like the board to support that we move forward with this contract for services.
Thank you for the presentation, Dr. Hagquist. First, we will go out to public comment on this agenda item. If you'd like to make a public comment online, please raise your digital hand, or in the room, please approach the podium. Okay, thank you, Director Binder. No public comment. I'll bring it back to the board for discussion of this item. Trustee Hazen.
Yeah, thank you very much. I'm supportive of this item, and thank you for including the board in the training process. As the experiences really do sound both compelling and needed, but lasting change obviously comes from what happens after the workshop. So I just wanted to ask a bit, what specific structures, practices, accountability measures will be put in place to ensure that the lessons are actually integrated into daily leadership, daily instruction, day-to-day life for the students?
That's a great question. One of the things that we did when we did our original cultural proficiency work was we engaged in I think the process was dialogue or reflection, dialogue, action, and that cultural proficiency or equity work is not equity work unless you have action. So through the conversations, what we're planning on doing is redrafting our cultural proficiency plan. We're kind of coming to the end of that. We're going to be at a new LCAP year, so a lot of the actions are going to be designed around this work, and there is a plan to redraft some of the actions of our cultural proficiency plan. Whether it's called cultural proficiency with the new LCAP might have a different name, but the same idea is going to be there. It's going to be the thing that's carrying our professional development work forward and the actions that are connected with that.
That's great. I mean, I would love to, again, I'll say at a high level, would love to see some of those plans for action after this, like back at the board, to be able to see that. And I know we used to have a TOSA at the high school that was really focused on the curriculum instruction and professional development. So it's great to have that again, right? Did such good work. So, thank you again.
Thank you.
Thank you, Trustee Hazen. For board members, Clerk Schmoss.
Is there a reason why we don't have like the independent consultant agreement for this? Just the form? Maybe because you're a director and this was for principals. I don't know. We have a form that.
Got it.
And then I want to ask too about that form, just the one that the principal of the high school filled out. for the muralist on the consent. It, it's asked, is this a prior year vendor contract? And it was a prior year, but he had to put no because it was a singular year. So if you could put a little something in there to fix that. Okay, then I want to ask, I'm interested in the parent component because I feel like that's a place we are lacking in development. And I'm wondering, I realize you have to, they have to plan out these dates, but I wish that the parent component could come earlier in the year rather than at the end of the year. Simply because if this program is delivering, some helpful, useful information, be nice for the parents to get it ahead of time. But I realize that it's all planned out, but that's just my comment. And I'm glad that it includes a component for the parents.
Agreed. We felt that that was essential. Kind of given some of the feedback that we've received in our LCAP work that, engaging the community is really a priority.
Trustee Wax?
This is more of a Josh question, I think, or Assistant Superintendent Jordan. The funding for this is from the adult school funds or okay, is
It's a combination of 5,000 from adult school funds and 30,000 from the state grant funding that's specifically marked for professional development.
okay. Okay, that's good to know. And then kind of like piggybacking off both Dr. Hazen and Trustee Shamos's comments. In general, I'd like to see like more of a library, or I wouldn't want to see it. I would hope that a library of PD opportunities would be available to teachers because, to not just kind of have it be ephemeral. And if a new teacher comes on and wants to learn specifically about cultural proficiency or something, it'd be nice if they could queue up a PDF or something of a handout that someone got, and break things up by subject matter and that sort of thing. I think it would be helpful to kind of get more lasting return on investment. And then just in terms of our own like what are we measuring or whatever, are there PD rankings or assessments from teachers after the fact? Do they like fill out some sort of
Yeah, so I do after all of the PDs, I do survey where I've actually reported the results of those surveys out to the board in the past. So yes, we do survey work following the PDs.
Awesome. Good to know. And then also with the parenting thing, I worry about kind of engagement. Do we like, I know at some of like the town form, or not the town forums, at kind of the meetings at the PG High library, turnout was good, but do we ever like actually write down how many people came, or like in like last year there was I think there was some drug work and an anti-bullying thing at the middle school. Do we ever kind of notate how many people are taking part in this?
If you're asking if we are recording it and tracking it, the answer is no, we haven't. But you raise a really good point. I mean, I feel there would definitely be value to that. That could be an easy, process, something for us to implement in moving forward. Yeah.
Yeah, because I mean, I could definitely see the upside in this scope of work being shared with kind of the entire staff. Brings down the cost in my mind, but it is still fairly large cost, and so I want to be mindful of the community's funds and make sure that it's not just for two people who show up or something like that. So yeah, I think we should kind of record just basic engagement or things in the future.
Or perhaps even a recording of the event so
I
that
was
we
gonna
can
ask about
go
that.
back and.
Yeah.
But I think this also probably ties into more of our comm stuff coming up too. Like,
Mhm.
how are we putting the word out? How are we measuring if we, how many people attended? Is that good engagement? Do we want more? Where do we want to be? So probably part of a larger discussion of things we have going on, but
Well, I wondered about for this presenter specifically,
Mhm.
if it is possible for us to have, even for the staff presentation part of it, the professional development part of it, if that's possible to have that recorded. I don't know if that would be, and didn't see anything in the contract, but so if a teacher wanted to revisit or watch again, or sometimes things don't come through the first time, or they want to, just that could be something, or if there's a new hire, things like that. And then even from the parent perspective, being able to, if they can't attend, because everyone's busy. So if they can't attend, that maybe they could log on at a different time. And that would be a way to track how many views we've gotten, to see how many parents actually logged in. But I think making it accessible after the fact, if he's okay with it, I don't know how that works, but they, for staff, hopefully, but I'm just saying for the general public, for parents.
Definitely something easy to reach out to him and ask. I know he already has several YouTube videos of his presentations worldwide, and it's quite renowned. So those are already available. But it would be nice, and we'll reach out to him. And
Well, especially if it's something that he's built something around what our district values. And so to have
More
that
personal,
specifically,
yeah.
I think would be really helpful,
absolutely.
available. Yeah.
Yeah, and I think like this is or could be like a good use of AI too. Like if it's recorded, you could scrape the transcript or whatever, and then basically a teacher could kind of go back and forth with the video about, you know, with with this person and any other restorative justice presentation. It was like how I'm having X trouble in my classroom. Are there any tips about this? And to make it more useful. I mean, perhaps. And I think it would be a good non-facing use of AI, perhaps.
It's a great idea.
I hate to admit, but I thought the same. And especially, I mean, you could think of a situation where a parent could log on and be like, hey, I'd love to know what's the PLC that's been done on, everything that's been done on restorative justice. And then they could, you could have a summary that would be like, here are the things in the videos you should watch. Because that's the kind of stuff that takes us a huge amount of time to organize, but could be, again, positive use.
yeah, I think for myself as a parent and as a board member, that would be a really useful document to be able to have. Because from what you're saying, we are getting in alignment. We're integrating all of the kind of individual pieces of work that we've been doing to try and have kind of a more comprehensive, aligned, and hopefully, because I feel like a lot of our work thus far has been responsive, but something more proactive and forward thinking, where we have the ability to really work on our restorative justice practices, because I know we toss that word around a lot, and I think sometimes it just becomes a buzzword. So for me, that's one really important component of this contract that I'd be interested in the board having training on, and also just understanding a bit more about what that is with regard to just kind of his approach moving forward. I was also curious, how did this person come to us?
That's a great question. Barb Martinez actually had the opportunity to see one of his presentations, like, you need to meet this person. And then we also had Principal Mira at the high school, Roni is from Santa Cruz, and so Principal Mira had done some work, and he knows him from his work at Santa Cruz as well. So two real positive recommendations from our own staff. And then we met with him and have had several conversations with him since.
Thanks. And I appreciate the idea to move away from proficiency standard and
Got
maybe
it.
towards something like competence,
Mhm.
like less us centered and more all of us. But lots of good ideas for moving forward. Any more discussion from the board? I'll look for a motion.
I'll make a motion to approve this contract. Thanks for presenting it.
Okay, motion.
I'll second.
Motion made by trustee Hazen to approve the EQ contract. Second from clerk Shamas. All those in favor, please signify by saying aye. Aye. Are there any noes? Okay, motion carries. Thank you. Thank you, Dr. Hagquist. Will we be able to get an update on, like a mid-year update on the work that's going on with regard to this new vendor? Like a check-in, like you kind of gave us on what was going on last year with Angelus and Carolyn Haskell, just so I don't know, after the first staff day, or so we have an idea, kind of live time of what we're working on. Okay, Chief Rogaman. Item C is our confidential employees group compensation agreement for 2026-27. And Chief Rogaman, take it away.
Good evening. You will recall that with several of our groups, we have entered into a 3-year compensation agreement. There was no compensation for 24-25, 2% and a $1,441 increase to health and welfare in 25-26. And this agreement extends that agreement one more year into 26-27 for a 2% increase on the salary schedule and a $1,487 increase to the health and welfare benefits for our confidential employees. Also, the confidential employees have asked for, and the district has agreed to conduct a classification and compensation study for the jobs for the employees at the district office. They typically follow many of the, well, they follow the classified contract that has been established with CSEA for the practical matters of their job. And so they would also like to be included in the classification and compensation study. The district has agreed that that would be fair. And so with that, we are bringing forward the agreement with the classified, or excuse me, with the confidential group for 2026-2027. Sure.
Thank you, Chief Rogaman. I think I said classified as well. Okay, confidential employee group compensation agreement. We will first go out to see if anyone from the public would like to make a comment on this item. You can raise your digital hand or come up to the podium. Thank you, Director Binder. I'll bring it back to the board for any discussion. Okay. If there is no further discussion, I will look for a motion to approve the confidential employees group compensation agreement for 2026-27.
So moved.
Thank you, Clerk Shamas. I'll second. Oh. Okay. Second from myself. So motion made by Clerk Shamas, second from President McNary. All those in favor, please signify by saying aye. Aye. Noes. Oh, sorry, Trustee Otmar. Motion carries. I got you. Aye. I got you. I got you. I just moved quickly, so I want to make sure you're recorded accurately. Thank you, Chief Rogaman. Item D is the classified and certificated management salary schedule for 2026 and 2027. And I have a required statement that must be read by the board president before the vote. So I'm going to read that now. Before the board is the proposed salary schedule for management employees for the 2026-2027 school year. This schedule reflects a salary increase of 2%, which is equal to percentage received by both bargaining units. The board will also be considering approval of a revised employment agreement for the superintendent for the 2026-2027 school year. This employment agreement for the superintendent becomes effective on July 1, 2026, and terminates on June 30, 2029. There are two financial changes to that agreement. One, to increase the salary by 2%, which is the same percentage salary increase given to all other employees. Two, to eliminate the coaching stipend, which saves the district $15,000 per year. The board will also consider approving a revised employment agreement for the Assistant Superintendent for Business Services for the 2026-2027 school year. That agreement also becomes effective July 1, 2026, and terminates on June 30, 2029. There is one financial change to that agreement, which is to increase the salary by 2% again, the same increase given to other employees. Okay, now that I have read that verbal summary, we can move on to the agenda item, and we'll go on to the classified and certificated management salary schedule. Assistant Superintendent Jorn.
Thank you, President McNary. And similar to what Director Rogerman, Executive Director Rogerman, or sorry, Chief Officer Rogerman, geez, get it out. Just presented as it relates to the confidential staff. We're bringing forward the salary schedule for the classified and certificated management for 26-27. Which is also reflective of what was just mentioned by President McNary, the 2% increase across the board to the salary schedule and a $1,487 increase to the district's health and welfare cap, which is noted in the notes section. And I am open for questions.
Thanks. First, we'll go out to public comment on this item. Would anyone like to make a comment either online or in person? Director Binder, how many do we have online?
6.
Yeah. Potentially in the room too. Okay, thank you. Yeah. Thanks. Okay, seeing no public comment on this item, back to the board for discussion. Would anyone like to discuss the classified and certificated management salary schedule? Straightforward. Okay. Okay. Seeing no discussion, I'll look for a motion on the classified and certificated management salary schedule for 26-27.
Also move.
Thank you. Motion made
I'll second.
and a second motion made by Trustee Hazen and a second from Clerk Shamas. All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Any noes? Okay, motion carries. Thank you, Assistant Superintendent Jorn. Okay. Next up is item E, which is the superintendent's item, which is mine. And so as board president, I am recommending that the board review and approve our superintendent's contract for the 2026 and 2027 school year. I think the information as we've discussed, is the two modifications, one to the term and, well, we're extending your contract to 2029. So okay, we're extending the contract by 3 years. You're getting the 2% and we're taking off the coaching stipend. Those are the three terms that are changing. I hope that wasn't too, anyways. I think that's it. That appears on our packet at page 145, and the contract is entirely public and available for review. With that, I will go out to public comment on the superintendent's contract for 26 through 29. Okay. And I will now bring it back to the board. Would anyone like to discuss the superintendent's contract for 26 through 29? Clerk Schmaltz?
We approve.
I'll just say this requires that you're not allowed to leave before 2029 as well, right, Dr. Addison?
Okay. Yeah, we approve. Thank you for the good work. And I'll be happy to make the motion to approve our superintendent's contract for 2026 through 2029. Is there a second?
I'll second.
Thank you. Motion made by myself and seconded by trustee Otmar. All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Are there any noes? Okay, motion carries. Thank you, Dr. Adamson. Okay. Item F is our assistant superintendent's contract for 2026, and I believe it goes through 2029 as well. We're extending them by 3 years. And this is your item, Dr. Adamson.
Thank you. Before I say that, just thank you to the board, and I'm just thrilled I get to continue to do the work that I absolutely am so passionate about and love to do in a district that has just become very dear and near to my heart, and lots of more work to be done. And so thank you for allowing me that privilege to continue it. All right. Well, it is my pleasure to be bringing forward the renewed contract for our assistant superintendent, Mr. John. You have the contract before you as well. And much like mine, it is a 3-year contract. And with the whole idea that, these contracts, they, revolve, 1 year, and we turn it over 1 year over a 3-year period. And so, again, President McNeary read out the terms of the agreement. Much like mine, it includes the regular 2% increase that is, given to all other employees within the district. And ultimately, it's my pleasure to be able to bring this forward for our assistant superintendent. It requires the terms of the contract require a satisfactory evaluation, each year. And, very much a part of my job. I feel very privileged. I get to work alongside you, Assistant Soup John, and the work that we've been able to do together. And I look forward to bringing this forward, and with the board's approval, being able to continue doing that good work together. So my pleasure to present it to you for your approval and vote.
Thank you, Dr. Adamson. We will go out to public comment on this agenda item. Director Binder, and I'll bring it back to the board for any discussion on the assistant superintendent's contract. Dr. Hazen.
I notice it's not in the contract, but I want to thank you for your role in coaching of the lacrosse team, because again, it just shows your commitment and dedication to the district also beyond what's written on paper. So thank you.
Great.
Yes, I was going to say, where's the coaching
Stipend.
Well, don't be afraid to take that. I really like that we have as many as we do of staff that coach. It's kind of rare nowadays to find enough staff that can do the coaching. So administrators coaching is even rarer. Thank you. And thank you for a job well done too.
Yeah, very much so. Someone like to make the motion to approve our assistant superintendent's contract.
I'll be happy to make that motion.
Okay, thank you, Dr. Hazen. I will make the second. So motion made by trustee Hazen and a second from myself. All those in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Are there any noes? Okay, motion carries. Thank you to both of you. Item G is the last on our proposed board, on our action portion of the agenda, proposed board meeting calendar. This is yours, Dr. Adamson.
Thank you so much. And I do have some proposed dates for you to consider. The first one, as I think we've already established, June 29th, we would like to propose that as a special board meeting night, just to be able to bring forward some items as a result of our recent CSEA negotiations. So with the board's approval, I'd like to be able to add that as a special board meeting date. Does that work for everyone?
Okay. I see a shaking head from trustee Wax.
I'll be out of town and I'll
Okay,
try and make it
Okay.
online.
I think that's right.
Okay.
Thank you.
I will be here. Trustee Hazen, will you be with us?
Okay, well,
Okay.
Opportunity for me to cry.
Oh, that's great. We're gonna extend it out. Okay.
All right, then there are a couple others that I wanted to present. Well, Dr. Hackquist had spoken about this opportunity we have for a session with the board. I would love to be able to have the board and have our cabinet together for that session. A date that we're throwing out, and I really want to present it to the board right now. It's August 3rd, and I know it kind of feels like that's a random night. It's a Monday evening. It's right before school begins. But the reason for that is it was a night that Roni Habib just happened to be in town for that day, nearby for another session he's doing. So it really, brought the cost down for transportation. So he really was hoping to kind of take advantage of that. So August 3rd, I don't know if that would work for the board as that really would be sort of a governance session and would just be purely for that opportunity to train with Roni Habib.
Are we calling that a special meeting?
It would be a special board meeting, yes.
Unless something else comes up.
But we also have a
What could
regular
come up that's more
meeting
important than
scheduled.
this. Yes.
Can I make an outgoing suggestion that could be an opportunity for governance training as well, if there's time, if there's anything that would like to be dealt with?
Yeah, I think it would just depend on how long we have, right? For that. But I mean, if the agenda allowed for it, we'd absolutely try and tie that in. Yes. And then the other change I am also needing to make is going to December. We're needing to change the date to December 10th. Sorry, I'm getting a tickle. I think it currently is that first Thursday as we normally do, but because of CSBA, we're really hoping to be able to attend that again with 2 new trustees coming in this year. I shouldn't say that, right? Because we don't know yet, but potentially we may have, for sure we'll have 1 new trustee coming in. And so, we really were hoping to allow for that opportunity to be able to, bond as a board. So I really would like to go ahead and change that date to December 10th, if that works for the board as well. And then the only other item I'm bringing forward is we do need to, we had originally had this evening scheduled as a governance session, but there were a lot of items that, had to replace that and we had to turn it into a regular meeting. Lou Lozano was originally scheduled to join us this evening. So I would like to go ahead and reschedule that date. He had given me some other dates in August, but I think that August is just looking, that's going to make it really busy. Unfortunately, our special board meeting in August did not work for him, but good news is that he is available on September 24th, which is our special board meeting. So I am proposing that for that would be the night we invite Lou Lozano, and he would be coming back to present the information on the educational foundation that we did not have time at our last governance session to do. And then we would, obviously tag on just additional governance work to that. That way we're not having to add another meeting to our calendars, if that works for the board. So a couple of things. We're adding June 29th, and I think I've got okay from everyone there. August 3rd, right? That would be for Roni Habib, special board meeting. If everyone's good with September 24th, making that our time to have, Lou join us again to do some of that continuing governance work, and then changing our December meeting to the 10th as opposed to the 3rd.
Dr. Adamson. We will first go out to public comment on the proposed changes to the board calendar. Would anyone like to make a public comment on this agenda item? Thank you, Director Binder. Seeing none, I'll bring it back to the board for discussion.
On the August 3rd date, we anticipate that's 2.5 hours. Is that?
Correct. It would be about, yes, exactly
Little
2.5 hours. Correct. Yes. Yeah.
And that would be a 5:30 start or 6:30 start?
Yes.
5:30. Yes.
We have some proposed changes. We will need a motion in order to make those.
I move that we accept the changes to our board meeting calendar to include Monday, August 3rd as a special meeting. December 10th instead of December 3rd as a regular meeting, and we have this
You're right.
24th.
It is
We
on
don't need that.
exactly
That's
right.
all.
And then June
And June
29th.
29th.
Oh, and June 29th, sorry, and June 29th as a regular meeting.
No, special board meeting.
Special.
Yes.
Okay. There's the motion with the proposed changes from trustee Shammas. Would anyone like to make a second?
Second.
Thank you. Trustee Wax. Motion from clerk Shammas and a second from trustee Wax. All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Are there any no's? Okay, motion carries. Thank you, Dr. Adamson.
Thank you.
All right, item A on our information and discussion agenda is going to be the annual safety audit review. This is your item, Assistant Superintendent Jorn.
Thank you, President McNary, trustees, Superintendent Adamson, public that's possibly online, and staff in the room. Let Director Binder cue this up for us. Tonight, I'm going to present an overview of the district safety assessment audit that the district went through a few years back. Safety, of course, is the foundation of everything we do. Students cannot learn, staff cannot perform at their best unless they feel safe and supported. This evening, I'll walk us through the assessment process, the key findings, the actions previously implemented in the district's plan for continued improvement. Next slide. So several years ago, the district began taking a more comprehensive approach to school safety. While we had many strong systems in place already, we wanted an independent evaluation of our practices, audit of our facilities, and a comprehensive review of our training program as directed by the board. To accomplish this, PGUSD partnered with Kimball and Associates, along with our emergency response agencies, local law enforcement, and EMS as well through this process. And we had a charge, and it was simple: to obtain objective assessment of our district, how we were performing, what we were doing right, what we were doing wrong, identify areas for improvement, and provide a roadmap for future investment and policy revisions. One of the most important concepts I want to emphasize tonight is that safety is not a one-time project. We assess our current situation and conditions, we develop plans, we implement improvements, and we evaluate outcomes. We also refine our approach based on what we learn from those outcomes. That's why we've developed an after-action report process I'll talk about as we proceed through the presentation. Next slide. The assessment itself was extensive. All 6 school sites and the district office was included in the assessment. The consulting team conducted site walkthroughs, aerial drone discovery, reviewed physical infrastructure, observed safety drills, evaluated our emergency procedures, interviewed staff, administrators, students, community partners, and law enforcement representatives prior to developing an executive summary and report that was presented to this board just under 4 years ago. Next slide, please. The goal here was to establish a baseline understanding of our overall safety of our district. The good news is that the assessment found committed staff, strong foundational systems, and a district culture that values safety. At the same time, the assessment identified several opportunities to strengthen our preparedness and consistency across all campuses. Next slide. During this process, we developed, one more slide. During this process, we identified our 5 priority areas, which now steer our safety improvement efforts for the district. The first priority was training. While training existed across the district, the assessment recommended expanding standardized training opportunities to ensure all staff receive consistent preparation in emergency response, crisis management, situational awareness, and de-escalation techniques. The second area involves site perimeter security. Excuse me. The assessment recommended strengths, including strengthening areas such as access controls, perimeter fencing on our campuses, and better ways to manage our entry points and improve campus safety through single points of entry and egress. The third was our area of communication. We needed to strengthen that area, and I know Dr. Adamson will be talking about a communication plan later, but one of the core components of our safety assessment was to be more transparent and clear with not only our parents and our community, but our student population. During emergencies, clear and timely communication is critical. The assessment recommended improving and standardizing communication systems and protocols to ensure accurate information reaches staff, students, families, and first responders immediately during an event, not after the fact. The fourth area was to address emergency power. Critical safety systems, of course, must remain operational during our power outages and other disruptions. The assessment identified backup power enhancements as an important area for future investment. And finally, the assessment emphasized strengthening safety culture district-wide by ensuring roles, responsibilities, and emergency procedures are clearly understood and consistently practiced so that we have the same language we're speaking across all school sites is the same language that our law enforcement, EMS, and fire are speaking with us as they interact with us during an emergency. Next slide. I wanted to put this up there because I thought that it was something that jumped out at me during the executive summary process, and it was just simply a quote from one of our consultants who did our executive summary for us. And this statement continues to guide our work. The quote is, while foundational systems are in place, strengthening training, infrastructure, communication, and organizational alignment will significantly enhance overall safety and preparedness across this district. Next slide. A key component of our safety program is the implementation, as we're all aware, of our Big 5 emergency response protocols. This is the standardized process that is used across our county, across all 24 school districts, and is that process for emergency response that our EMS agencies are also trained on. So we all speak the same language, we all drill on the same safety protocols, and our emergency preparedness for our district includes, next slide, under Big 5, lockdown barricade, drop, cover, and hold, shelter in place, evacuation, secure campus. Now, this is a departure from prior systems that were in place and this district had been trained on. This district was one of the first districts to implement the Big 5 safety protocols in the county. And now it's actually 21 of our 24 districts are fully immersed in the Big 5 protocols. In the past, it was run, hide, fight. There was a lot of different methodologies associated with that, but seeing that our district is now standardized with the other 21 in the county, law enforcement, when we interact with them, as I mentioned before, we're speaking the same common language. They certainly know the difference between a secure campus and a shelter in place. And so do our staff and our students. Next slide. So some of our learning through this process was the development of after action reports. This board has seen them, and so has our community as we release them they release them to staff, we release them to the public in our community. After any sort of an event that occurs, following drills and other actual incidents, the district conducts structured reviews to evaluate what worked well and where improvements can be made. Those findings are, of course, vetted by local EMS and incorporated into future training and planning efforts. After every event that's occurred in this school district, we have an after action meeting with law enforcement, whereby we vet the entire after action report that's going to be released, and we develop systems and protocols to address any of the gaps or holes that may have occurred during the actual event. The process, of course, allows us to learn from every experience and continuously improve our response capabilities internally as practitioners in our school districts, but also how we work with law enforcement and fire. Next slide. These recommendations have actively guided our work over the last several years, including facility and infrastructure improvements, policy enhancements, and training for our staff and student population. We have expanded the training to our student population through many different forms over the past 2 years, now having curriculum that we have woven into our TK through 12 that our teachers are teaching our students on as it relates to active shooter training. Next slide. Since 2023, the district has invested more than $1 million in safety-related improvements, with approximately $8 million in additional projects programmed through Measure B and future capital planning efforts. Just to highlight a few, We have a district-wide visitor management system now, our VMS system, student safety awareness programs. We've conducted our behavioral threat assessment team training, and we're moving into our behavioral threat assessment training level 2 in the 26-27 year. Active intruder response training has been intensified and solidified through our Big 5 protocols, as well as utilizing external consultants to train the trainer. We now have internal trainers available at our sites. We've expanded our Narcan availability and the staff training around the use of Narcan. We've improved fencing and continued to improve our perimeter security at all of our school sites. We've moved to single points of entry. We've added lighting improvements, fire alarm modernizations. We've modernized our closed circuit television systems and expanded coverage at all of our school sites. And of course, updated our public address systems where applicable. These investments represent a significant commitment by the board and the community toward student and staff safety, and it should be commended. Next slide. One of our initiatives was the creation of the District-Wide Safety Advisory Committee, formed in late 2023. The committee serves as an important accountability structure for the district's ongoing safety efforts. The committee includes district leadership, site administrators, certificated and classified staff representatives, community partners, parents, caregivers, law enforcement, and fire representatives, all committed to meeting with us quarterly. And the purpose is to ensure transparency, collaboration, and continuous feedback as we move forward. Its diverse composition ensures that no single perspective dominates the discussion. Any of the board members that have attended, and many of you have, can see that there's really a great discussion that ensues during those meetings. A lot of thought partners at the table, and the development of future projects have come out of that meeting and recommendations to this board from that committee. Instead, our decisions are always informed by experienced safety experts who sit in the room with us as well. It's been wonderful to have fire, law enforcement, emergency EMS, emergency response at the table with us making these decisions. Next slide. Our work is guided by a structured 5-year improvement plan. I have it linked here in the presentation. It's also up on our website, and it's a living document that we make changes to as we progress through the 5-year implementation plan. The plan began with the assessment and the baseline development and moved into infrastructure and communication improvements, expanded into training and visitor management systems, and now focuses this year, 26-27, on the evaluation, refinement, and long-term sustainability of our school safety program. This approach ensures that we are building a sustainable safety culture rather than simply implementing isolated projects. Next slide. Let's see. So in closing, I want to emphasize that that safety is never finished. It requires ongoing attention, ongoing investment, continual training, continual evaluation, and the partnerships that I've mentioned this evening. We've made significant progress over the past several years, and I'm proud of the work completed by our administrators, teachers, classified staff, facilities team, local emergency partners, and the Board of Education, who had the foresight to bring this forward. Most importantly, we've established a framework that allows us to continually improve and adapt as needs evolve. I want to say thank you to this board for its continued support and commitment to ensuring safe schools and safe learning environments for our staff and students. And I would be happy to answer any questions related to this presentation or how we plan to move forward in the 26-27 year and beyond. Thank you.
Thank you for your presentation. We will first go out to public comment on the safety audit review. Please raise your hand online, or if any staff members left in the room want to comment. Okay, thank you, Director Binder. Back to the board for discussion. Trustee Hazen?
Yeah, just 2 quick points there, Assistant Soup Jordan. The after action reports is exactly the kind of thing that I think we need, again, just more broadly. Like, it's our ability to look and see, just like we were talking about the PLCs earlier, it's like, how do you make sure that things worked and identify what didn't? If you don't identify and admit what doesn't work, you can't fix it. Secondarily, your 5-year plan, just that you showed, I mean, it really highlights what we have done, and from, let's say it this way just for fun, but from whence we have come. Because again, we, thinking of even just like the little stickers we are all now so used to putting on as visitors when we show up, like how much that has changed from the days when we were having trouble sometimes knowing where to get into a building, not necessarily just all the other things that have been done. So it's a really, just want to commend you both on those two aspects of the presentation as well as the work.
Well said. Brooke Schmoss.
Yes, just to echo the what Trustee Hazen said about, is it built in that we do a debriefing after an incident immediately? Like, okay. And also, do we have I know we meet with the PGPD, but is there an agreement or a connection that we count on that they give us input? If the thing is that when we look at our safety issues that we've already dealt with, okay, a lot of them have been intruders on campus. And a lot of times the police already know these people, either if they've been hanging around different places, but I just wonder if they can give us some kind of alert sometimes when, even before maybe nothing has happened, but so that if admin sees somebody on campus before they freak out, they might have already been given a heads up about, hey, this guy is, it's just helpful. And then the last thing, I was looking on CSBA email and they said that we have to have a weather safety plan policy by July 1. Did you hear about that?
Yeah, I'm certainly aware. It's in the development phase. It's something we'll bring through policy committee. It's not going to be ready by July 1, unfortunately. Yeah.
I mean, I don't
Yeah.
know what tsunami, what do we got to worry about?
Yeah. Tsunami and fire.
Fire.
Flood. Yeah, there's a
Wind.
we have a small flood zone. Yeah. Yeah, we'll address all of that.
All right. So that'll be coming into a policy committee. Okay.
And the nice thing to note related to that is our school site safety plans already incorporate a lot of that language in them at the school sites, which we have standardized comprehensive school site safety plans, but we don't have the policy to tie it back to. But the plans actually do identify what to do in case of like a poor air quality day, or how to get to higher ground, or in case of a fire in assembly area. And so it is addressed in our school site safety plans.
Okay, thank you.
I agree with you, Trustee Hazen, about how far we come looking at the 5-year plan and the perimeter security upgrades and ongoing, and the visitor management system and single point of entrance. And a lot has been done in a few short years and more work to do. I have a question about see something, say something. Do we keep any data? And I'm just curious to know if the tool is being utilized, and if so, at what sites or yeah.
Yeah, so the see something, say something reporting has been predominantly at the secondary level that we've seen notifications. I do have biannual check-ins with Sandy Hook Promise where they evaluate our data and they provide us feedback. I haven't presented any of that to this board. There hasn't been anything that's rose to the occasion that's alarming for us as a district that we're not following protocols or being responsive. But again, I would say that that anonymous reporting tool has been helping us more. I think it's not just for a potential emergency or an issue with a student. There's been other anonymous reports that have been shared with us through Sandy Hook Promise, I think, that have been valuable beyond the initial intent of the program. So, and we do evaluate that with Sandy Hook Promise twice a year. So remember, it's a grant-based program and it's a free program for our district. So they want us to utilize it. They want us, and they also require constructive criticism or feedback as to how to better develop the tool. And we have been giving that to them.
Cool. Yeah, I am kind of curious, just numbers wise, like how many students have accessed it or utilized it over the period of time that we've been working with them. Just knowing that the tool is being utilized and is useful for any sorts of tips. I understand it may not always be what the Sandy Hook Promise was intended for, but just that it's visible and marketed so that people are aware of it and taking advantage of it. Thank you. is the weather, I saw that also in CSBA about the weather safety plan. Is that going to encompass things like when we have one elementary school that goes dark because of a tree that causes a power outage, and then we have 3 days of no school at Forest Grove and Robert Down doesn't have the same issue? Or is this going to be something, I just like the continuity piece? Yeah.
Do have the, and now it's escaping me, the emergency continuity.
Yeah, is that what it
weather
is? Okay.
plan, which we do have that plan. which,
Okay.
is woven into our school
Yeah.
safety plan. It was board adopted. I'm gonna have to take a look at the weather
I know.
policy.
Brand new.
But we already have to have that, the educational continuity plan.
Yeah,
Thank you.
continuity.
And we do have that in policy, and we do
Okay.
have the AR, and we do have the plan, which has been
Okay.
adopted. So I'm assuming, yes, that would be
Yeah.
woven into or
Okay.
referenced in the new policy.
So, but you're saying we already have a plan and policy for when weather related, continuity, when there's outages or a site has to close for, okay, because that's been, I think, something we've heard about in the past. So I'm glad to hear that. That's all my questions. Okay, thank you for the presentation. And the update. Will we get to see it again next year, annual safety audit review, or for future review? I guess we can discuss.
I think an annual review would be,
Makes
what do
sense.
you think, Assistant John?
Yeah, so just so the board's aware, the plan next year in 26-27 is we're gonna have the consultant come back and simply kind of, they're not gonna do all of the drills at all of the sites, but they're gonna kind of come in and review our drilling, our policies and procedures once more. To verify that, not only have we fully implemented, but if there's any potential gaps or there's new changes to law that we may need to implement. So that's happening in 26-27.
Okay.
I can bring back to the board any changes that they're recommending. Small contract with them. I want to say it was like $25,000 to do all of our school sites and to review all of our drills once more. But I can bring that back at the end of the year with the results. Sure.
Yes, please.
Yep.
Thank you. Item B. Moving on our agenda is the PGUSD Communications Plan update. I'll turn it over to you, Dr. Adamson.
All right. Well, thank you so much. It is my pleasure to be able to bring forward an update of where we are in our communications plan. If you will recall, it really was a little over 2 years ago that we contracted with the National School Public Relations Association, referred to as NSPRA, and I'm going to use that term as I, go through the presentation itself. And really, it was, at the board's request to really have them come in and do a thorough audit of our communication protocols and systems that we were utilizing at the time. Just as a side, I think, it felt very timely for me personally coming in. I started with the district in November of that year. The plan was still in the process of being completed and was around March towards the end of that school year that actually, they presented it to us. So, it was really kind of at the same time we were developing our new 3-year LCAP goal. I was conducting all of my listen and learn, sessions and meetings with the community and with staff. And so it all really came together in a nice, moment. And what we were finding was just the feedback that, NSPR gave us was very much aligning with the input we were getting from all of our input sessions through the LCAP, and there was that alignment with all the information I was receiving from families, members, community members, students, and parents as well. So just very timely in general. They presented a very thorough plan, to us with a thorough, pretty intensive roadmap of, just kind of highlighting, a lot of the areas that were in need of change. And again, that was as a result of surveys they'd sent out. They actually held, in-person meetings. I think they were by Zoom and, did phone calls as well with students, with staff, and with family members as well. So, and of course, they did then a lot of it. They requested a lot of information, from the district, did sort of a thorough overview of our website, that kind of thing. When they presented the plan was very interesting because one of the things I shared when I, presented the summary of that, it was about 1.5 years ago to the board. One of the first things, their key focus areas was that we should be hiring a dedicated director of public relations. And that was immediately something that we realized, no, as a small district, we don't have that ability. So a big part of our plan, and when I presented that to the board, was how we were going to, go ahead and just utilize our current staff and our systems in place already to really allow for some of the suggestions they were making as a result. I presented to the board a little under 2 years ago on exactly what those goals were, and sort of a 3-step plan. And it's my pleasure to be able to give an update of where we are there. All right, moving on to the next slide. I've kind of just identified it through 5 different pillars. And the first one, cohesion of messaging and brand identity. Very much throughout that report and that order that they presented to us, what stood sort of surfaced to the top for them was that there was a sort of a lack of cohesion and alignment, across the district. Cohesion in messaging. There was fragments on how the district was messaging, how school sites were doing the same, and definitely they identified the need for brand identity. So I think I'm sharing out how we address that in 3 different areas. At the beginning of the 23-24 year, in alignment with the rollout of our LCAP, that was when we rolled out our 3 core values and our culture of promise and commitment to the community. So I think that just very much allowed for sort of a standardized district-wide message that we've then a welcome back message to our staff, and a presentation that I now do at the board at the beginning of each year that identifies what our focus areas are for that coming year. And so we were absolutely at that time able to present our new 3 core values at the time. You see the posters that are now on our walls here in the boardroom, but the idea with those was those would be present and visible in every space and place across the district office. And the idea there being to really get everyone within the community familiar with our 3 core values and what they meant and what that commitment was. Visual branding protocols. I think the big piece here was just operationalizing, our consistent branding guidelines, ensuring that every communication that went out really had, the same, our district logo, sort of a high-tech quality component of that, and ensuring that, there was just this professional look and feel, right, of all of that messaging. And you'll see that sort of being repeated now in our letterheads, my superintendent's newsletter that goes out, and really trying to include that in any separate, one-time communication that comes out, particularly from the district office. And then number 3, the welcome back, board presentations. That has just become now, a staple of something that I do at our first, board meeting, and that is also repeated and presented to our staff at the beginning of the year, just as a means of really bringing, all of our staff together, sharing that unity in messaging on, what our focus will be for that particular year. Moving on to pillar 2, this is really highlighting streamlining and centralizing district communications. And I think a big piece that, NSPRA identified was that, when there were events that were going on, particularly, this aligns a little with what Assistant Superintendent John was talking about, when there were, safety incidents or something that we had to report out in real time, there wasn't sort of the centralized ability to be able to send out one message to all families and staff that they were all receiving the same information. So really he was talking about, funneling all of our core public-facing communications directly through the superintendent's office, through our cabinet. So that has been, just really some of the basic changes and protocols that we have implemented as a result. If there is a site that's, addressing and dealing with a situation, myself and cabinet work directly with the site leader to prepare and put together communications, making sure that we have, identified individuals who are communicating with PGPD, with the city, depending on, what the circumstance is. The bi-monthly superintendent's newsletter, this has just really allowed for a cadence. That was something NSPR really reported to us, that you want to have, something that our families and our staff can rely on, that's going to be coming out on a regular time. And that is, my bi-monthly superintendent's newsletter with the focus on identifying, recent events, upcoming events, and ensuring that same information is going out to everyone. I included the third one, just because this was, I think, a really good example of, sort of almost a protocol that we developed at the time and have now also put into place for all, subsequent and future events. So, the bond outreach that we did at the time when we brought forward, to our community, the opportunity for them to go ahead and vote on that $78 million bond. We really did a lot of community outreach. There was a lot of promoting and advertising on, we needed to get information out to our community to be sure that they had all of the facts. And then even just the advisory council, meetings, town hall, style forms that we were able to hold to be sure that information, was coming out. And then as a result of that, subsequent to that has really just been, the means and forms by which that we've communicated to our community, the progress that we're making, in that regard. So, again, that was just, the third area there. All right, moving on to pillar 3, website modernization was, the third area of focus that they identified for us. They really, called out our attention to just areas where the website was just not very easy to navigate, and really identified, ways for us to go about, really doing a sort of a systematic overhaul. And we're really proud of, where we are today. That was something that Director Al-Ghazi, working also, with Director Binder, worked on and focused on last year. And we were able to really sort of roll that out at the beginning of this year with a lot of input, from families and from staff as well. So really the idea with that was about making it just, more accessible, and easier to use, with a core, focus on ensuring that our core values were, had their own specialized page to really make sure that, that language was very accessible to users. The calendar was definitely an area of, feedback that we received, particularly from, families, that it was just, there wasn't sort of one location where they could sort of see all of the events that were occurring. So we really did, again, where that was definitely with the help of, Director Al-Ghazi, our calendar now currently, there'll be occasional misses, right, that we'll, hear about, but, we've really got all of our sites ensuring that all of their events are added to the calendar. You really have the ability now to sort of toggle and, turn on and off, certain sites so that families can really see in real time upcoming events. And then really the last one on that page, just with a focus on our strategic plan and LCAP accessibility, we developed a one-pager for our LCAP goals that is, very easily accessible. It's something that I include as well in my, welcome back messages at the beginning of the year, just to ensure, with the idea being that, everyone within our community should know how many goals we have, what those goals are, and having a one-pager, kind of like a, pamphlet brochure to be able to access to see them, sort of a one-stop shop, is good without all of the, ed speak, educational, language speak, jargon that sometimes lands up in those documents. Okay, pillar 4, systemizing safety communications. I won't spend too much time on this because, Assistant Soup John, really highlighted this in his presentation, but really the development of our safety committee, advisory council has been, a key development there where we, meet regularly and report out regularly. That allows that two-way loop of communication, right? We're getting that feedback and being able to present feedback to our community. Proactive and transparent messaging, particularly in, real time when events are occurring throughout the day, and really just that close relationship we have with PGPD, and our chief of police has just been, incredible in, being able to work closely together, and our monthly meetings that we have with him, have just been incredibly valuable. And then really emergency infrastructure, right? Just ensuring that we have those, those loops, right? The tying back to our site principals that we're hearing directly back from them in real time, and, and really just trying to minimize panic, right? When those events are occurring. I think a key piece that came out of all of that information was just that importance as well of including our students when that communication is going out. If there's something that's occurred on their campus during the day, being sure they've heard that reassurance from their teachers, from their principal before they leave at the end of the day, right? That they know what occurred. Prior to that, our messaging was going out to our families and staff, and we were missing that critical element, our students. And then pillar 5, just strategic cohesion and community engagement. When you look at that, it just gives sort of a really nice sort of overview of just some of the processes and protocols we've implemented in the last 2 years. Community forums and surveys. I know that's a part of our LCAP process, but I'm really so proud of just how we've worked on that, starting with Chief Rogerman's, work when he was in that position, and just how we've enhanced that with Dr. Hagquist over, the last 2 years. But just really making sure that those are meaningful and reliable opportunities for us to hear back from our community in a variety of ways, and our students as well, right? I mean, they have such an important voice. That's the district advisory councils, ongoing LCAP advisory sessions, and then really that idea of, annual recommendation. And I think that's such a beautiful part of our LCAP process that we have currently. That is our opportunity. We use that. We're, intentional about it, gathering that input and feedback from those sessions. And communication is a big piece, of that feedback that we receive on how we can continue to improve. So really looking forward, I think, I've identified just our three, next steps and areas for continued improvement. I think number one is we're constantly looking at how to evolve and improve, what I refer to as our two-way feedback loops. We could definitely have our current advisory councils, we know that, even just this year, we developed our budgets, subcommittee and our facilities subcommittee, which is giving us additional information, that additional opportunity to be engaging with our community. But really, we'd like to see, in the coming years, just how we're utilizing our English language advisory council, our school sites, and our school site councils, to really kind of get a little bit more of that, direct input from established councils at the site level, to use that to help inform our decisions at the district level. Number two, enhancing digital accessibility. I think this is definitely kind of an ongoing, work in progress. It's evolving constantly, but just sort of the platforms that we're using to ensure that, there's accessibility for every, all of our families. We continue to hear, we use Catapult currently, but that's not necessarily, something that everyone loves, and how it presents on the phone versus on your computer. So definitely looking at continuing to help refine that. Social media, I think, is increasing our social media presence at the district level. I think is definitely an area of focus for us for next year. So many of our families we know, and our students for sure, but they get their information through Instagram, and that makes it, we want to be able to utilize what our families are using, right? So definitely a focus there. And then what I refer to as tailoring multi-generational formats, right? Really just kind of trying to tailor the messages that we are sending, keeping that in their current form, but, are they sort of more bite-sized, summarized versions of that can go out? I know every time we do a little video or something, that's always very well received, right? And it tends to be watched more. But just really kind of looking at it, particularly, giving updates, right? From, things in real time and things we're trying to encourage engagement, of our community. So really, I think that last slide, looking ahead, I think all of this is, in line with our, continued cycle of improvement, cohesion, alignment. You hear those words, being repeated constantly because it continues to be a focus. I think of, one area when I started as superintendent, we had the LCAP, we had board goals, we had a strategic plan. It was all different. There was no alignment with it. And I think that was definitely one of our, areas of focus, from the beginning, based on this feedback we were coming out. When that LCAP rolled out, everything aligned to those 4 goals. And, that just helps for, I think, it minimizes confusion, but, helps with, aligning everything we do, every decision we make to, those 4 goals, showing that connection. But yeah, I think, in green, I put that it's, that whole sense of that feedback we got from that audit was that so much of what we were doing felt very reactive. It was about just developing systems, right, and protocols to allow for sort of a more of a, proactive, deliberate, value-driven, data-driven system, that really our community could start to rely on and depend on, in getting our messages across. So with that, I'd love any feedback and input from the board as we continue our growth in this area.
Okay, thank you for that presentation, Dr. Adamson. We will first go to any member of the public wishing to make a comment. Please raise your digital hand or approach the podium in the room. Thank you, Director Binder. I will bring it back to the board for discussion. Clerk Schmoss.
Yes, I think we've definitely seen improvements. My concern is I'd like to see an expansion to the non-school community on what we're doing. And I think it'd be worth like paying for some piece in the pine cone, maybe twice a year, whatever it is, because those people are not going to hear all of this stuff. And so when we want to get information out or we're proud of something specific, I'd like to see that we have maybe set up, maybe 3 times a year or something where we purposely put this in and we pay for the advertising to do it. I think that benefits us in the long run. Carrie's putting out that upcoming board notice, meeting notice you were putting out. That's cool. Casey, I always do that. Carrie. Casey. This is what
I think you're talking
this is
about
what I
the-
do
that-
with you.
the board highlights, right? The board highlights.
Yes. Yes, that's new, right? Well, I don't
Doing
think
it for
we-
about 2 years now. Yeah, well, maybe a year and a half. I think we've started implementing that.
maybe
Yeah.
I just wasn't looking at it or wasn't coming to me. I don't know. Okay, and the slide you had earlier in your presentation, Dr. Addison, with about the PG baseball, is that going up somewhere or is that just for us? When you were
That was actually
complimenting-
from Principal O'Meara's Instagram account. He had actually posted that to make it.
Okay,
Acceptable.
because on one side it said the football team instead of the baseball team.
Okay, that was an error.
So
Yeah.
that needs to be fixed if that was
no,
going
no,
out.
that was just, I think, the link in my slide. No, the
Okay,
actual, the
okay.
picture, I took a snapshot of the Instagram page that, Principal, no, his was correct. If there was anything in the actual slide, it was.
just on the
my
one
error.
side and it had football. Huh, Linda, okay, just
Yeah,
checking
just
on
gonna
that in
put
case it
the-
was,
No, that will not be. Yeah.
you can I excuse, but it's going out there.
Right, understood. Yep.
Okay,
Good catch. Yep.
thank you.
Trustee Hazen?
Yes, again, thank you for the presentation and the updates. I can state the website is much improved. Again, as you said, always work to be done. Since you mentioned it, catapult. And I don't know, I mean, part of the thing that I've found frustrating as a board member and parent is that you can't read the message without clicking on it. And the other part is, if there's a way too, is, a catapult, and I know we've mentioned this before, but a catapult message could be as serious as like the school's on fire, or it could be, hey, there's a new update to the board communications or something. So it's just maybe there's a color coding that can be done or something if we can't get away from the fact that like even just a like 1-line summary that lets parents know, like, is this, because the problem is I think it makes it really hard to filter, especially for busy parents. That's my only lingering, maybe not only, but one of my major lingering complaints about catapult.
If I could just second that,
Trustee
because as a parent, I can say there's been times with catapult, something comes through and the first word is urgent. And then the rest of it is, don't forget to get your yearbook. And I'm like, oh my God. But you see something that says urgent and it could be the school's on fire or a kid's gone missing or whatever, but it turns out it's just that I don't want to miss the yearbook deadline, which I appreciate, but at the same time, it's that one line of, trying to catch somebody's attention too. It feels a little, that definitely needs work, because what we don't want to do is have parents that don't open the message when it is absolutely essential that they open it.
Sure.
And it becomes a safety issue, So yes, I second that very much.
I appreciate the presentation, and to echo the comments, I'm sure we've gotten better. I feel like this is my subject where I'm the biggest bully about, but luckily I'm quite tired, so I won't even be able to make sense even by my standards. But yeah, I mean, just to pick on you, since you're there, you got a new contract, you're fine, you're good. But like the superintendent's message is in a Google Doc.
Yeah.
And so like, I personally would way rather prioritize the channels on our website and email as opposed to social media, because that's algorithmic, and if it goes away, then it's gone away. But for posterity, it's the superintendent's message are disjointed from the actual website. It's a Google Doc. It isn't uniform, to the other communications in terms of kind of looking the same because you jumped to a Google Doc. But that's true of everything. Same with the catapult. I think we discussed this a little bit, but there's got to be a way to change the templated system or for the messages, and to give more context for each message without having to click through a number of things. And then also, I thought this was what Trustee Shamas was going to get to, but like for big achievements like the baseball team or the poet, I mean, that should go on our district website, I think, and not as evidenced by the maybe six people on the meeting. If it's on our website, more people are inclined to see it, or at like a year-end wrap-up in the Pinecone, like, look at all this great stuff. It's just, we are very transparent. You are very transparent. It's great. But I do think like a user interface kind of usability deep dive in the ample amounts of free time that you all have would be good, because it's just it's a bit too much and disjointed and stuff. So, but I appreciate all the efforts.
Well, I know we've had many conversations about Catapult, you and I know that's, I mean, currently we are definitely limited in what we're available to do, but I know they're constantly also doing updates, and, I think we'll continue to look at that. I think as far as, one piece that we have always tried to do is in the title, if it is sort of a safety or an urgent piece, but I understand, I think based from what you shared, Trustee Otmar, if, with our sites too, I think we've got to really look at what the language is that we're using, right? I mean, the word urgent should imply, right, there's a safety concern with it. So I think, just aligning things there. And then from your perspective, Trustee Wax, I think we will continue to look at Catapult and work on, how we can, make it more, I mean, the Google Docs piece of it, I think that is a challenge, because the moment you copy and paste it directly into the body of the email, you lose that ability to do any kind of, formatting in Catapult, right? So,
wait, sorry, Catapult is also the CMS, but I mean, there are links elsewhere on the web. CMS is the content management system. So, I mean, there are links on other parts of the web pages. So, like, there's got to be a way to have. I mean, I feel like you should be able to publish new web pages like the news items and have them not just go to an offsite.
Which we do, and you can access them on the website. So under my superintendent's page, that's where, you can click on, all of my recent communications. So they live on that page, but we also send it out. The original one we always send out via email first, but then you can access, and go back and look at all the archived.
But the email, and judging from the May message, it says on the PGUSD domain, it says click here to read the entire message, but then you click on it and it goes to Google Docs.
Right.
And then the email links to Google Docs too. But if it's a CMS, it could link to PGUSD as a news item. It's
okay, I think I see. Can you speak to that, Director Binder? And we could even pull up and show what it looks like on the website.
Yeah.
But yeah, go ahead. Yeah.
So, Trustee Wax, what you're raising some interesting points, because you are correct in saying that we could recreate the newsletter, the updates as a web page, as an actual live web page, and those get cataloged individually. And therefore, when a link is sent out through Catapult, text, SMS, you click on that link and it would open the web page, essentially mobile compliant. You can zoom, pan, do all that from your phone. I think that's what you're kind of getting at.
Yeah, I
More or
mean,
less.
just 99% of the websites have a news item and they don't link to a Google Doc, yeah, but yes.
So yeah, the Google Doc itself can be a bit cumbersome on a phone, especially. I recognize that, as opposed to a mobile compliant web page, which then would essentially be manipulable very easily on.
Well, it's also an issue of accessibility because if you search on the PGUSD website, everything in Dr. Adamson's messages aren't going to come through because they're Google Docs.
Correct.
So
Right.
having all the information on the website is just in terms of being able to find or resurface information, it just makes it a lot easier. And like those sorts of things are just, if families are the customers, we got to think about like the experience for customers. And I think that's like
It's a great suggestion. I think there is some work there that we can look at kind of migrating some of this to where it's just HTTP compliant and mobile, and therefore you're not opening up a Google Doc in it as a separate step. There's definitely ways to do that. I know that Catapult CMS has built-in templates for newsletters and those kinds of things. We could definitely explore that and uncover some of those features for sure.
Yeah, I mean, like the calendar listings for the board meetings, those are individual news items basically, and because you have all the information. I mean, there are PDFs that you download, but it still has the dynamic information basically, and they're unique. So whatever, I don't know. I mean,
yeah, I mean, it's definitely, it's a good point. And, we can definitely consult with not only Dr. Adamson, but anyone else who's doing that kind of Google Doc centric distribution, which you're right, has its limitations. It may not be totally necessary in an era where we have dynamic content management functionality. Yeah.
that's it. Thanks, everyone.
Thank you, Trustee Wax.
Yep, you trustee Wax.
Very valuable.
I think I really appreciate Dr. Adamson, that you took the time to bring this back and to update us on what has been implemented and kind of where we are. I think a lot of the feedback I'm hearing from the board tonight is kind of about meeting the community, families, our broader PGUSD community where they're at. And we learned from Dale Scott that 19% of people get their news in PG from the Pine Cone. So that's huge. So I love the idea of making a more conscious and intentional effort because we have a great district. And I think sometimes we have great things to share, but like somewhere between the awesome accomplishment and people actually getting something in their device that they will read in a digestible and accessible way, like we haven't made it there yet. I think our communications are really consistent now, but like the accessibility and the user friendly, if we're thinking about families or the community as users, like we have more work to do and meeting people where they're at. I would throw out the idea of using the program Parent Square. Looking at that interface as a parent, it looks more friendly. The way news and information are kind of gathered together in a hub. So you can either choose to look at things that apply to your kid or not. I mean, it's all, I don't know, I'd say the user end experience is very friendly. And so just seeing that as opposed to getting a Catapult message. And I'm like, both Laura, either if I don't read it, it's going to be something really urgent, or I've just got two kids and I've been inundated with messages from my site and the district and everything else. And like, it kind of, ends up chalked up in a pile. So I think the three moving forward next steps are really on point with where we're headed and what we're going to be doing coming up. So I appreciate you bringing this forward and keeping the communications conversation alive. You as well, Trustee Wax, because catapult, someday. It's all I know.
One,
Do you receive catapult messages? Okay. Okay.
one quick
I think because I'm not a parent.
Because you don't have, I think, and so that's also
Be
the
on the
broader.
board. You should be getting the board.
There might have been a
Okay, okay.
checkbox that was not
This is a
interested in
really
receiving
interesting
via
social
text message
studies
too.
Chose to not.
I did want to also just quickly add, thinking creatively, maybe a dead end, but I mean, you could potentially reach out to the Pine Cone about maybe writing an op-ed type column, like
Right.
news from PG schools, see if they'd be interested. And that could be a way to get a bit away from the ad, which
Mhm.
again, because I'm also the kind of person, like if I see an ad, I skip over it. But if it's like, oh, this is interesting, that might be I don't know if they'd be up for that, but that could be mutually beneficial.
It's a great idea. I hadn't thought of that, honestly, Elliot. That's
or
great. Yeah.
or not
Mhm.
always an op-ed, but to reach out. I mean, we have a
Yeah.
very engaged parent about tech matters who's a reporter. I mean, if we engaged proactively to a reporter at the Pine Cone or anywhere else about some of the things that were happening, maybe that'd be a better way to get news attraction rather than just some of the bad things or issues. Yep.
And we do. I mean, I try really to be, just proactive about that in reaching out to both. We've got, our contacts at Monterey Herald, and the Pine Cone. I think their challenges with it. I think sometimes it just depends on what they have the ability to, and if they choose, it's it's newsworthy for them, right? So I think again, that's an ongoing evolving piece. I just met recently with KSBW. They reached out to me just a few weeks back, and I guess they do sort of a advertising, component as well that is pretty reasonable. So again, it's given us another, option to really look at and consider if there's, videos and messages we want to get out there that, they would, broadcast during, some of their busier and more popular times. But no, just it's really, really helpful feedback. I mean, Catapult definitely is something, we clearly have to, take another look at and see, what our options are there as well. And we'll commit to doing that for sure. Yeah.
Yeah, it really is a trust building exercise, knowing that when I click on this link, I'm going to get
Yeah,
information that is useful and valuable to me
Yeah.
because the person on the other end has thought about myself and my experience as the user. So thank you for
Well said.
continuing to do this work. Yeah. Okay, great discussion. Item C, last item is future agenda items. We have the future agenda item spreadsheet. And I will first go to public comment on future agenda items. Would anybody like to make a public comment on this item? Okay. Board, any discussion on future agenda items this evening? Trustee Wax?
This was mentioned at a previous meeting, but since we have at least one election happening, is there going to be some sort of info session or community reach out about running?
Yes, I'm so glad you asked because that was going to be the topic we were going to discuss now. So I think we would love to, and it's not going to be a requirement for, all of you as trustees to be there, but we'd like to pick a date in July that would maybe work for all of you, where we could have, sort of a, community forum events that, we would plan, and really you as trustees would be there to answer questions and, maybe to sort of present to those who are interested in running, give them just sort of more of a detailed, a glimpse into, right, a day in a life, maybe a month in a life or a year in the life of a trustee at PGUSD. So thank you for bringing that up, Trustee Wax. I'm going to really look to the board on if there's an interest in that, and if we could maybe look at some dates for July for that, would be great.
Yeah, I would be interested in doing it. I just don't know how many people we'd actually get, but even if we get 2 people, it's worth it, if you ask me, but because we're giving out good information and it's helpful if
Right.
someone is really seriously thinking about running.
Yeah, sure. Right. Absolutely. Yep. Okay.
I agree. I was just going to pull up the timeframe for which people have to submit their notice of intent, so that we make sure we're, oh boy. July 13 to August 7. So that's when, if someone is interested, they file with the Monterey County Office of Elections.
Yeah.
Till August 7th.
Okay.
Not much time.
And Dr. Adamson, you wrote about it in your message about this, but it's good to reiterate that the district pays for the blurb and the voter guide.
Absolutely. Yes.
Filing statement.
Yeah, the filing.
Yeah. And I will, reshare that information again. I think once we've got a date and I send that out to the community, I'll make sure I include all of that again. Absolutely. Yeah.
Of course, if you're the only one running, there is
Mhm.
no statement.
True.
There is no,
Right.
you're appointed actually. Did you know that?
Uh-huh.
I
You're
did.
not.
Yeah, we did know
Yeah.
that because that's how two of us
Mhm. Yeah.
ended up on the board.
Yeah.
Nice.
Yeah, we'll
Mhm.
see. But I would be open as well to attending a community forum information night.
Do we have any dates that some of you want to just throw out there or
Can we take a doodle poll?
can do that? Mm-hmm.
Maybe throw out a few days that work for your all end of things,
Yep.
and then we
Okay.
can see if we can get 2 or 3 of us on one of those. Would that work?
That'll be great.
One question alongside that you could send a message out to the public just saying, hey, interested in running? Click here, send a message here and start getting an idea
So
for how many
somebody could-
folks.
Yeah,
Not a big, like, here's a bunch of information, but just like interested in receiving information on running, maybe would be a way to put it.
Chase with you.
Maybe like urgent. Are you interested in running? You only have till August 7th.
And it'll be a Google Doc that they have to fill out.
Right? Google form.
Perfect. We've got it all in one.
Good. All our work is done.
Okay. All right.
Oh my gosh.
Sounds like we've got a plan. That concludes our agenda for this evening. We will now adjourn. Our next special meeting will be on June 29th, 2026, and our next regular board meeting on August 13, 2026. Thank you, everyone, for being